Welcome back to another episode of Macrodosing. Whole squad is back. We're back. I want to say thank you very much to my good friends Big T, Avery, Mad Dog, Arian, Foley for holding down the ship while me and Billy were driving across the country and spending time out in LA with Billy's favorite TikTok stars. You guys did a great job, by the way. We listened to some of the show when we were driving through Cincinnati and Kentucky.
Billy did not.
We did listen to some of it. We listened to some of it. Some of the fast food discussion. We were I guess you guys were talking about Arby's and all sorts of stuff. So we did tune into some of it, but then we put on another driving playlist and hit the open road. But thank you guys for doing that. It was wonderful. I'm sorry that Billy lied to you on last Thursday's nanodosing. I would never do that, but Billy was trying to make conversation.
Look, if I was just like, anyway, whatever.
That's, you know what? I've learned this other thing about Billy. So if he's about to tell a lie, it always starts with, there's a study that just came out. We know that. We've learned that about Billy. But then when Billy finally gets caught in a lie that he has no more recourse to defend, his give up phrase. Literally... Wait, Billy, wait. His give up phrase is, anyway. And then he moves on without ever admitting it. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, or that works.
I literally was just saying I knew.
Hold on, man, Billy, you gotta get something off your chest, man. You got a little. What's happening, man?
Sometimes I just say yes to things I don't really pay attention to.
What could go wrong?
True.
Thank you.
What could go wrong?
Bro,
yeah.
Billy would get into a cult so easily. That is true though about Billy. He'll say, "Yeah, sure, that sounds good," and then he'll be like, "Wait, what do I have to do?"
It's something from my childhood that it's better to just say yes and move along the conversation, figure it out later, than it is to be like no, because then you look bad. It's like a fake it till you make it type thing.
Just say, "Excuse me, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that, please?"
Well, it's better for podcasting.
To lie and not pay attention?
Actually, in a weird way,
yes.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes,
yes.
sure.
Sometimes it is.
What was the lie they caught you in LA with Jake Marsh?
Oh, that's a long story. Basically, Billy agreed to go tape a segment with Jake at Muscle Beach, and they were gonna wake up and get out of there early in the morning. And then Billy woke up, texted Jake, being like last minute, "Hey, are you sure we still want to do this?" Kind of like looking for Jake to say, "No, let's just call it a day."
Because Muscle Beach is closed, and there's only two of us.
Yeah, and so
anyway,
so Jake was like,
"You don't respect his gains. That's why you didn't want to show up to Muscle Beach with a nerd." That's what it was.
Yeah,
Jake and I had a great time. Jake and I had a great time at the beach.
But so Jake was like, "Yeah, I think we should still do it and go make content while we're out here being paid to be in Los Angeles during Super Bowl week." And Billy fell back asleep before receiving that text from Jake, which came a whopping 2 minutes after Billy had texted him initially. And then Billy just slept in, and then Jake was just sitting around like, "Wait, what's going on? Where's Billy?" And then Jake got really mad at Billy, which I think
it was just a bat. Anyway,
I think he was entitled
Jake
to be
snuck,
angry.
Anyway, I snuck Jake into media day at the fucking Super Bowl by telling him where exactly to walk behind the curtain to get in. And yeah, not getting any points for that though, but it's fine.
No, Billy,
I'll
give you credit, Bill. You were mean to me on nanodosing by not listening, but you did give me workout advice. So I'll give you a break there.
Thanks,
50 burpees before every workout.
And to Billy's credit, he did a great job guiding us all safely across the country. He drove like 60% of the time, absolutely killed it, was a content machine, was a great road trip companion. And that, that's saying a lot, because if you're on the road for, 42 hours total driving, something like that, it's tough to do that if you don't have a good crew with you that you can vibe with, that you can get along with. And Billy's vibes were high for the most part.
Look, I'm not looking for compliments. Thank you guys, appreciate it. But let's get into the FBI.
Okay, moving the show along. Well, how's everybody else doing? I'd like to see how my friends are getting along, because we didn't get a chance to visit with them last week.
I think we're good. We missed you guys.
Big T?
I didn't miss y'all, but I'm glad you had a great time.
Thank you. Thank you. You see,
Big T, I just want to say you look awesome.
Thank you. You look great too. Look like you're having a great time out there in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm out here in Arizona.
Did you see that our friend made his return to the stream?
Oh yeah.
Has he reached out to you?
No.
He hasn't?
I was told that was part of his recourse to get back, and that is not happening.
Not a word.
Who's the friend?
No,
who
not a word.
Arian.
It's Rico. Rico, the guy that threw the high noon at Big T.
The can guy.
I was told I was owed an apology, which I have not received.
He called you,
dude.
He texted me right after he left the office the day it happened, when he thought he was going to get fired, but he hasn't said a word. He's in the office right now. He hasn't said a word. I don't care.
What would you like?
I don't care. I really don't like. I don't even necessarily want him to. I thought it was interesting that he was supposed to have done that. I'd also like to see. I can't say that.
I'm just saying, precedent has been set. If you want a month vacation, you just gotta chuck a can at someone's head, but mitt.
Well, I think that there's a couple asterisks on that one. He didn't get paid, so that's.
I would like to see the verification on that.
That the payment stopped?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you make those requests, Big T.
Yeah.
I'm not asking to see Rico's bank statements.
Do you think that happened?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I truly do. Because he almost got fired.
That's not true.
I think it is true. I think
it is true. I think Brandon almost got fired when he shoved Devlin. We have a place where we pay people to fight. It's not in the office.
Yeah. So, would you like me to reach out?
No.
To Rico?
No. I genuinely have no interest in whatever. If I hope he's rehabilitated and a different person. He's not. But
have y'all seen each other? Have y'all seen each other yet?
Yeah, he walks by my desk 5 times a day.
You don't look at him? Has there been any eye contact?
No.
Have you been looking away from him?
I do my job. I don't pay attention to him one way or another.
You seen him though. I want to.
Yeah, I see him all the time.
Somebody got to be an instigator there, man. Somebody, if I was there, I would do it. I would walk in the middle of both y'all desks and just kind of look at both y'all, be like, "Oh shit."
I'm gonna
do
text
that
Rico.
1,000%.
I'm gonna see if he wants.
Tell him to come in.
I would really rather you didn't.
But you said that he owes you an apology.
No. Dave said he owes me an apology.
You're not an abused woman, my G. Bring him in, dog.
No, I have no interest in speaking with him.
As a producer with a neutral side.
If you're gonna do that, wait till I get back into the office.
This would be so good for numbers.
I think that's when Billy.
Wait till I
adding
get back.
Billy to a situation has never de-escalated a problem.
No, because honestly,
Billy's on the right side of history.
Yeah, I'm on the right side of history here.
It's the one place where history will be kind to Billy.
As the producer with neutral beliefs, I think this would be great for numbers for the show.
As a social media manager, I also feel the same as Avery does.
As a known antagonist, I would love to see that shit pop off.
I don't think.
As the person most involved with this, I disagree.
I don't think.
I
that
feel
we
like
should
you can get him
approach
one-on-one.
this situation. We should not approach this situation as an antagonizing situation. I'm hoping that it's water under the bridge. I'm hoping that both sides can move forward. We don't want this to go into another violent encounter or rage-filled encounter.
What is that?
Well, I mean, better have it.
Well, here's what's going to happen though.
Rather than later.
Hey, hang on a sec. Here's what's going to happen. If you say whatever you're doing, he's going to say that he apologized. Which is what he texted me the day he left.
I think we can get some real conflict resolution here too, because what you're saying is you don't believe him that he's genuine, right? But you have yet to reach out and see if that was the case. So what you're doing is asserting his position, which isn't fair to him.
Well,
what if he really almost lost his job and he really feels bad? You know what I mean?
I'm sure he did feel bad when he thought he was going to lose his job, but now that he knows he's right back and fine, he does. I don't.
But shouldn't the apology mean more now then?
Yeah. Now that he
Why?
Because he has there's nothing to lose by him apologizing.
Well,
your biggest point of contention was
the apology that doesn't exist. You mean that hasn't happened? And it's trying to be coerced by someone.
I said, if he gave it now, wouldn't it mean more? Of course, I spoke about something that hasn't yet happened.
Not if PFT texted him and said, "Hey, come do it on this show." No,
I did not text him and say
that. Why would he say that? He said, "Come in." He wouldn't say, "Come."
PFT, you text him. PFT, you're texting him right now, aren't you?
I am texting him, yeah, but I didn't say like you need to come in and apologize to Big T.
Well, what did you say?
Okay, here's what I said. Rico, do you have any interest in meeting with Big T to offer any truths or lessons learned? No pressure. I didn't want to box him into an apology or anything like that.
Nothing coerced by.
I'm not coercing him. I said, do you want to share anything? And then,
it is though.
And then you know what the problem is right now is you guys are like a couple that broke up. That you don't want to be the one that like puts yourself out there because you don't want to get rejected by the other guy. Because he says, does he want to though?
No, I do not. Unequivocally, I have no interest in speaking with him.
I'm not dropping in if he doesn't. I think he doesn't want any part of it.
That's
extremely respectful.
The smartest thing he's probably ever said.
It sounds like he's
extremely respectful. Yeah. Sounds like a man who's learned.
See, now he gonna hear that, but he gonna hear what you just said and be like, "Well, fuck that dude." Then, like,
I think he's already come to that conclusion.
No, I think he's ready to make amends.
Bro, it's the fucking Hurt Locker. We're dealing with a bomb and we don't know the timer on it.
All right, so Big T, if we just role played and I'm Rico and I come in, I say, "Hey, Big T, I'm Rico. What do you say?" How do you greet me?
That's fantastic.
Do you greet me by the name Rico?
I have two conflicting thoughts on this.
Wow.
On the one hand, the part of me that loves to see my enemies fail and fuels me says that I should not make his life easier after what he did. Like, him doing that should not result in him coming back and his life being easier.
But what if he's grown as a person from the mistake he made?
I mean, what the fuck does that even mean, dog?
He's gone to therapy.
Like, why should I go out of my way to be nice to him? Other than...
I'm gonna keep it a buck, my G. I'm gonna keep it a buck. This is me. All jokes aside. Hold on. Let me get this out.
Okay.
All jokes aside, like, yeah, I'll be joking and shit. I don't know, buddy. But that's a young thought. That's a very young thought.
No, but what I was going to say is the other
part.
You're
also washing your hands of any blame, not all blame, any blame.
Yeah, I absolutely am.
Right.
What was you about to say?
What blame do you place on me?
You know, it's something that pissed him off, and you kept digging at him.
I don't say a word to him. We discussed it on the show. He made a comment about me, and I said his legal name.
Sure.
And he lost his mind.
I don't even want to give this any more airtime because it's
this has nothing to do with the situation. It has everything to do with Big T's resolve. Like, I'm telling you, like, in order to have any kind of real conflict resolution, right? Because I've done years of therapy. So, like, and this is what you get taught. Like, you may not have been may not been antagonistic in nature, right? But you played a part, whatever small role. Like, point of case, like, I got cheated on, right? I didn't do anything for her to cheat on me, right? But, like, I took responsibility for shit I did in the relationship previously that maybe have led her to that thing. Didn't warrant what she did, right? But I did play a small part. What I'm saying is, and it's really for you than it is for him. I ain't saying y'all a couple and shit, but I'm just saying in general, in the future, this is how you resolve conflict. It sounds like you just want to continue being a dick. That's what it sounds like.
No. I have nothing to do with him. I just don't. I don't care. I don't want to speak to him. Like, I want to have nothing to do with him. I'm not being a dick. I'm not being a dick to him. I don't want to speak to him at all.
Like, you've never called PFT Eric.
Well, PFT isn't a piece of shit to me.
Right. So you're putting qualifiers on it. So you are admitting, like, you know why you were calling him that, because you know it was something that he doesn't care for. Like, you keep saying it's his legal government name, but you don't do that to other people who do
for no reason.
And when PFT says, like, you're part of the clan, you don't go, okay, Eric. Like, that's my point. Like,
I've never said that about Big T.
I also don't think that would make him fly off the handle.
No, it doesn't. It does. Like, if
not now, there was a point in time it might have.
Jerry did it to me like twice earlier today, and I was just like, okay, yeah, I guess.
Right, that's today. But like pre-doxing, you would have been like, what the fuck, dude?
I called you Eric a whole bunch when I found out that was your first name.
I know. No, it doesn't bother me. But let's try to be constructive here. If Rico came in and he wanted to discuss things with you in a calm manner, would you be able to discuss them?
I wouldn't believe a word he said.
Cannot.
Wait, Billy, stop trying to
get Rico in the room.
Stop trying to interject yourself into this one.
I'm not interjecting. I'm just trying to comment.
He turned his body to Big T and asked him a question, and you were like, "I've got this one."
So Big T, if he came in here and he was like, "Hey, bygones be bygones,"
I find it shocking yet not surprising at all simultaneously that he's been back for, today is Wednesday, so let's call it 3 days, not including the Super Bowl stream, and y'all are like so ready to be like, man, he's a new person. Like it's
no, I'm not.
Like he has exhibited
I don't know this dude at all.
Years of behavior of being a crazy person, and y'all are now ready to anoint him a saint.
I'm saying if he came in here ready to make amends, hat in hand, and apologize.
If he came in here, I would use the years of examples I have of him being.
So you would start a new fight with him.
No,
I think this is the issue, BG. I think it's the issue. You think he's not here, so we can't do anything to critique his behavior in the past or right now. All we're doing is saying, in order to have any kind of conflict resolution for real, you have to take responsibility for your part in it, whatever small part it may be. So we're just bringing that up, and I think you're taking that as, well, why the fuck is it all on me? It should be on him. It will be on him too, and we'll if he's willing to have that conversation. I don't know, buddy, but I would say, yo, you would have to, if y'all want to have some real peace, then you got to take responsibility. I would probably bang for you. I would bang for you more than him, but you just in front of me right now.
If y'all are saying that there is a whatever percent of what I said to him that made him do that, that's fine. I don't, there's no fight with him. I don't care. Like, I don't speak to him. I don't have anything to do with him. So an apology isn't even like necessary or wanted. Like I
would like to thank him. You're the one who brought up the lack of apology.
Well, his boss said that that's something he had to do, and he didn't do that. I have my doubts that like he had 2 direct deposits stopped. That's just my opinion. I don't know that. Yeah, okay. I don't know that. That is purely that's purely guesswork.
I think you should still thank him.
Thank him for what?
You was trending on Twitter, bro.
Yeah, no, sure. And that there's an argument to be made for that. But in terms of like, y'all are saying let him apologize and become like friends. Like
no one said that. No, you're adding more shit.
Y'all had a moment. Appreciate the moment. No matter, like y'all was beefing, but y'all had a moment, man.
No one said like start a show together. Like no one said any of that. Like allowing him to apologize was really all we were saying.
Okay, here's the way I stand on it. If the options are A, continue to have nothing to do with him, don't speak to him, and he doesn't apologize, or he apologizes after asked by someone who is very respected and important at this company, who kind of has leverage, for lack of a better term, on him, and then continue to have nothing to do with him and don't talk to him. An apology that I wouldn't necessarily believe. If he did it on his own, that's one thing. What y'all are describing is not like, those are the same to me.
Here's why I'm asking, man. I'm not putting any leverage on him. Every time I've texted him, I've said, this is your call. It's totally up to you.
You're one of the higher up people at this company. If you ask someone to do something, they are likely to do it.
Okay, so what?
Except you.
Like what?
Yeah, no, I can't ask you.
Have him come in, bro.
And Rico also didn't jump when he said come in. He said, "Does Big T want me to come in?"
Mm-hmm.
That led me to believe that he actually does want to have like some kind of.
I think you guys are both at a point where there's so much history behind you that you don't want to be the first to show any sign of weakness or be the first to put yourself out there. And I get that because there has been a lot of back and forth between the two, a lot of bad blood. So I totally understand where you guys are coming from. If Rico does want to come in here, I just know I've put it out to him. He's welcome to come in. I've said that you would be willing to hear an apology, even though you don't.
You said something that I explicitly did not say.
Even though he doesn't think it's necessary. You did say that if Rico wanted to apologize to you, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But you said you don't think it's necessary.
If he did it on his own.
But you said that you didn't think it was necessary. which I also included.
What you said in writing without any context conveys such a different message than what I said.
Okay, how would you like me to amend
When
it?
I said it wasn't necessary, I mean, like, I don't care. I don't really want to talk to you. When you say it's not necessary, that means like, oh, it's cool. Like if I said, when you say no apology necessary, that means like we're good.
Reading it back, I get that. Yeah. Sorry, I was writing it as you were saying it out loud. So reading it back, I can see that. He still hasn't replied to it, so my guess is
I don't talk to him. I have no interest in talking to him.
Going back to PFT's question, I do think it actually is interesting which name you call him to see where he's at, because there is is like a dick move, but yeah, if he immediately explodes, and I don't expect him to be a changed person over a month, like that's an insane task for anyone to pull off. Like Arian just said, he's been in therapy for years, and it wasn't 2 sessions and he was cured. Like that's not how this shit works at all. So yeah, I don't expect him to be like, yeah, we're best friends now. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I do think like he probably still feels like, I don't think he likes how he comes off portrait. Like I think he got hired because he's a crazy person. Like that's part of his whole persona. So I kind of understand why you think like, oh, he was never really going to be fired. But Dave and Big Cat have always said like there is a line like that we have to keep him off, and he clearly crossed that with you. No one's saying that either.
Did he?
I think he hates how he comes off in this whole thing. I bet he does genuinely feel bad.
I would disagree with that, but that's obviously just conjecture. I think this was great for him.
No.
Take a month away to a hero's return.
No.
Everyone loves how crazy you are. He'll fly off. It makes him like mysterious and dangerous. He loves it.
I don't think so. We can revisit this. We're going down a little rabbit hole, but yeah, let's move on a little bit. I just want to check up and see how everybody was doing, and that's part of how the last week has been. So yeah, okay. So in conclusion, Billy's good. Cole, you're all right. Arian, you're cool. Avery, doing well. Mad Dog, you're doing pretty sweet too. And then Big T is great.
Yeah, great. Okay. If I were doing any better, it'd be illegal.
PFT, how are the Ohio rest stops?
Good question, Mad Dog. The Ohio rest stops were, they are unique. They're different from the other rest stops.
Well, did you go to like Pilot Flying J's, or did you go to like Turnpike rest stop?
We went to. That's a good question. Where were they, Billy? They were,
because you guys were in Cincinnati. I don't know.
We actually didn't stop in Ohio that much, to be honest.
We went to one, and it was very nice.
No, we went to Pennsylvania.
No, Billy, you're wrong. We stopped at one.
But it was late. It was either at I think we stopped outside of Youngstown.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's was Ohio. The one time we stopped, but I don't think it was one of the ones. Let me think, because I actually remember pulling it up.
No, that's the one where I took a picture and I tweeted it out.
Yeah, and you tweeted it. Were you guys on 90 at that point?
Well, we might have still been in Pennsylvania. It was that close to outside of Youngstown.
No, Billy's wrong. We're 100 million% in Ohio. Because it was really, really dark. Yeah, we were definitely in Ohio at the time. It was nice. It had so many things. Like, people go to these places to buy stuff for their house.
Yeah.
It's not
especially if you're in Youngstown. No offense to Youngstown. People are shopping there.
Yeah, no, you get housewares, you get decorations for your home,
groceries.
So many signs are up. Like, you have all these little cute homey signs that you can put up. Things like, what was it? Something about there's like 4 main food groups: vegetables.
Oh, we were in Ohio.
Meat, yes, and wine.
Yeah,
and then just like a bunch of stuff that you could picture 45-year-old women purchasing. By the handful.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
Billy funny. Billy a funny guy. Man.
Yes. A lot of figurines.
No, I'm telling you, we stopped at so many places. I was just like, I was jogging my memory, and then you're like signs. It was like home signs, and I was like, oh yeah.
Defiance is what kills
there. Like, and that's Ohio.
So adamant about not stopping in Ohio. Like the defiance, not even like maybe we did. Like, no. That's what kills me.
Just because I know we stopped our last stop. Because we drove straight to Cincinnati, and before we didn't stop like 4 hours before getting to Cincinnati.
No, you're right, Billy. Though Youngstown is on the edge of Pennsylvania, and then if you go from Youngstown to Cincy, it's about 4 hours. So Billy was like, your thinking is accurate.
because they sold beer in that gas station, so it had to be Ohio.
That's true. Yeah. We did pick up a 24-pack Coors Light there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was Ohio. It was wonderful, but I get why people like Ohio rest stops now.
It's really just me.
Yeah. Well, I understand it.
My liking towards it.
Yeah, I get it.
Nice. They're comforting.
They're unique. They're different than other rest stops.
There's bigger ones that have like all the restaurants and stuff in Ohio. We didn't stop at one of those.
Yeah, we missed those for sure.
Those are the best.
We did stop in a gas station.
Yeah, the domes are what like makes time stop for me.
There's some other cool ones that we saw in Arizona, I think, in New Mexico. Was the one with a giant teepee? Was that Arizona?
I think that was New Mexico. I want to say because it was.
Yeah, instead of a giant dome, it's just a huge teepee that you go inside.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, getting to see the country was wonderful. And then Arian gave us a great recommendation for New Mexican food in Albuquerque. Or was that was your mom's recommendation, right?
Yeah, I couldn't vouch for it, but I love my mom, so I let her take the wheel on that one.
And your mom was a bit racist towards us and said, "You guys look like you can't handle a lot of flavor because you're white."
Did say that.
So maybe order it at a low spice level. We got the regular spice and it was wonderful. It was very saucy. New Mexican food is delicious.
Yeah, I have yet to encounter like the Southwest in general. Like has a very different style than like anywhere I've been. Like it's very unique.
Yeah. But let's get into the FBI because I feel like there's a lot that we can cover here. The FBI and all their controversies through the ages. Billy says that he's got a fact sheet ready to go that's going to blow your mind.
This time I'm actually going to share it with all you guys because you guys deserve it. You've re-earned.
We've re-earned sheet privileges.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Send it off.
Thanks, man.
But the FBI. Does anybody here have a good impression of the FBI?
Big T.
The FBI is an organization often used as a tool for political discord, say.
I think you're correct. Now, if I'd asked you that same question, say, 7 years ago, what was your impression of the FBI?
7 years ago would have been 2015.
Yeah.
I would say that they were an organization doing what they felt needed to be done for the security of this country, and that they did the best that they could with the information that they had at the time.
Okay,
so
I agree with I think you're telling 100%. You know, before we dive deep into it, I always found it funny as hell, dog, that like right-wing folk, when Trump was banging the bad FBI drum, like you weren't getting a lot of pushback from us, like at all. They were like, yeah, we agree. Now just take it to the local level in the police departments and then we on the same page. But they won't. They're like back to blue. It's like FBI corrupt, local police station not corrupt. Like I always found that fascinating.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people in like resistance Twitter spaces and blue check marks who were all of a sudden fully on the side of the FBI. Like trust our law enforcement, go Robert Mueller, go rule of law. And people that would have been singing a completely different tune about the FBI if the shoe was on the other foot. So I do agree with Big T that there's a blatant hypocrisy by people, and I think it's equally on both sides of the fence that they like the FBI when it serves their purposes. When they're investigating people that were in the counterculture movement in the 60s, it was like, good, arrest those hippies. But when it's going against their guy, Donald Trump, they're like, fuck the FBI. They're a tool of political oppression. So a lot of people's opinion on the organization is completely dependent on who they happen to be attacking at the time. But I think that they've overall, like this giant law enforcement branch has proven that, yes, they might occasionally they do arrest bad guys who probably need to be arrested. But they also, and this goes for a lot of jobs, I think, they have some downtime and then they start figuring out things that they can be getting themselves involved in to make their careers, and they end up overextending themselves and pressing against people that do not need to be fucked with, and they can actually cause a whole lot of harm by doing that.
I mean, the FBI, from what I've looked at, the only like overall positive, the FBI is supposed to be a domestic agency, and it's, arms outside of the US have expanded recently, especially in the Cold War. The only like surefire I can hang on the FBI's hat is that they got rid of the mafia's influence in the United States. That I can be like, FBI, check. The rest is all, it may have been more bad than good, but we say that enjoying a lot of the security that they have given to us. There's, I do think the bulk they try to do good, but I think if you look at how the FBI was developed, you're going to see that it's a lot of decentralized planning in a lot of different offices in different places, just sort of a lot of cowboy agents taking on what they thought was a worthy cause.
Yeah, before we get into all the controversies, let's go around the room and say something good about the FBI. I like the jackets. The jackets are cool. Those windbreakers with the yellow letters on the background, those are cool jackets objectively. If you're ever in an office when a bunch of people in those windbreakers storm in, some shit's about to go down. You fucked up big time. I like the jackets, and I like the female body inspector novelty shirts that they sell on the boardwalk. Those are funny. They get a laugh every time I see them.
I like Law and Order SVU. Is that the FBI?
No, that's the Special Victims Unit of the NYPD.
Okay.
You like Christopher Maloney and Mariska Hargitay. I co-sign with that.
Yeah.
My issue about the FBI jackets is what distincts them from being real and fake.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be something very easy to counterfeit, right?
Right.
No, you can't get those exact same jackets like at fucking Party City or something.
Yeah, they're admittedly like kind of swagless, but at the same time, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not like a starter jacket.
No, I think that's their appeal though, right? Their appeal is like, it's like Facebook, like less is more. You know what I'm saying? It's like nice, clean template. Yeah, just like nice, clean template. You know what I'm saying? Just easy to use, easy to slip on. You notice it when you see it.
That's a good point though, Avery. That'd be sick if they had starter jackets.
That would be.
Damn, they had too many old white men for that kind of swag. Right? Look, so if I'm looking for something positive to say about the FBI, it is that they did a thorough investigation on Michael Jackson's hard drives. They investigated him for years and they came up with nothing. Michael Jackson's innocent.
Okay, Coley.
Great name. FBI, like succinct, hits all the right notes. Like it sounds better than CIA does. CIA sounds like a conference that plays football games on Wednesday nights. Like
it also sounds like a small car that's fuel efficient.
CIA?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good point. Because I was about to say the FBI doesn't sound CIA.
No, CIA. CIA sounds like Kia.
Yeah, the new Nissan CIA. Yeah. But yeah, FBI. I think it's a strong right there. They also have a strong. I don't know if they even still do this anymore, but in the 90s on a VHS, it was really the first thing you'd see. It was like the original preview.
Yeah.
All porn for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's a good call.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd pop up FBI warning, copying this film is punishable by like 20 years in prison, whatever it was. Yeah. That warning was everywhere. Even when you started to play like a Ninja Turtles video game, Coley, or like the Simpsons video game that's behind you, I'm pretty sure the FBI warning came up before you even started playing the game.
Probably. Yeah, they were everywhere. Like they made it definitely. I get why people were worried about like Skynet and stuff like that, because you couldn't do anything in the 90s without the FBI showing up.
Yep.
And then Napster came along and called they fucking bluff.
Solid point though. Good letters. They have good letters. Big T, do you have anything positive to say?
I've really been thinking jackets was a great call. I don't know. They're kind of. Let me tell you something, and we can cut this from the show if this is too harsh. I don't know if I can say this.
You always try to cut shit from the show.
No. I want this in the show. I'm saying I don't want to disparage our guests.
Okay.
But if the guy who comes on later in this show is the type of guys that we've got working in the FBI, we got some Looney Tunes motherfuckers investigating crime in this country.
Or he knows something.
I gotta tell you, I don't think that guy knows a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you.
He's a master falconer.
He is, yeah. And by the way, that's Ben Hansen coming up later. He's gonna talk to us about mostly his new career, which is exploring UFOs and the show that he's got coming out. But he was also an FBI agent.
That guy seems very nice, like a super great dude. The more he talked, the more I was like, man, we really need to question our institutions and who we got working up there, because
I'll give you a free positive since that wasn't one. When they in movies show up to a crime scene and pull rank on the local authorities, that's always sick too.
You're out of your jurisdiction. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. This is not your crime scene.
The FBI, my final was the FBI does a lot of great work fighting sex trafficking in the United States, and they're on the front lines. That is
you did a real one. Boo.
Yeah, I did it. Well, the thing is, there's not many good things to say about the FBI.
Yeah, that's why we talk about their jackets.
I will say they probably do a pretty good job, like a thorough job investigating certain financial crimes. They've got a lot of tools that we don't have. They probably do a thorough job. Usually, I don't know. I guess maybe
I'm sure they've cracked some cases. Sure, man. They ain't just all in that, but you know, I think their overall, like especially their origins, it's just rooted in filth. Like, and so it was bound for corruption.
Is the FBI, like, do we not know a lot about the good things they do because it's so top secret, or am I trying to give them more credit than they deserve?
Them and the CIA, they can always pull that card, which is
you don't know everything we do.
Stuff. If you knew half the stuff that we knew, you'd be walking around in
fear.
Like, you can't handle the truth.
Yeah. One of the first things I did in the fact sheet was differentiate what the CIA does versus what the FBI does.
Okay, so let's walk us through that, Billy.
Yeah, you got it, because everyone's like, oh, FBI, CIA. But the missions of each of them, so, for example, the CIA was originally started to just be like the prime informational briefing for the president. Their, powers have definitely expanded since they were just supposed to basically hand like a fact sheet to the president on issues that he had to decide on.
You were the original CIA. What you do on the
show. So I am the original CIA for Macrodosing. And as you could see, I probably, then imagine me like going to find the information myself, and then, pulling up with guns and being like, I have the authorization of macrodosing.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're under arrest for fucking Mother Teresa.
You're out of your jurisdiction.
I work for a podcast. So the FBI focuses on law enforcement, whereas the CIA exists to collect foreign intelligence for the United States. So specifically foreign for the CIA. It used to be FBI was largely domestic, CIA was largely foreign, where we had zero jurisdiction. So, for example, the mission of the FBI is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution of the United States. Currently, the FBI's top priorities are protect the United States from terrorist attacks, which was added. They never were supposed to deal with foreign affairs until recently, namely the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. That is when they started to become more involved in foreign affairs. To combat significant cyber criminal activity, to combat public corruption at all levels. This is where they went after racketeering, a lot of political corruption. This is where I think they did some of their best work. To protect civil rights, that is definitely, generous saying that now. To combat transnational criminal enterprises, to combat major white-collar crime, and to combat significant violent crime. Now, the origins of the FBI actually lies in that they were originally named basically they were originally supposed to stop human trafficking in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when you had a lot of people moving out west, and there was a lot of trafficking of immigrants from the Northeast, as well as rural females in the Southeast into the West, namely Nevada, namely the Southwest, in the West, and largely because there was a huge gender discrepancy out west. It was mostly males, and there was zero, like, males going to the gold mines, going to, you can read about, that's how sort of the whole Las Vegas Nevada brothels came about was because of this imbalance of male to females in the West.
The ratio was off, yeah, and it was called the National Bureau of Criminal Identification.
That wasn't its first name. It was originally. Let me gather my notes before I go off. Okay, the Bureau of Investigation was the original namesake of the FBI. The National Bureau of Criminal Identification was a different sector used to identify mostly different states. It was a collection of different states' criminal records, which was then combined with the Bureau of Investigation later on. The Bureau of Investigation was famously one of their first controversies was going after Jack Johnson, the African-American boxer who was one of the first people to publicly marry a white woman. It was one of the first interracial marriages. They sort of were ascertaining and trying to take action against Jack Johnson that Lucille Cameron was a prostitute marrying him not under her own free will. So from the beginning of the FBI, there were sort of like directed attacks on, the idea of the attack on America, the attack on, all of that sort of stuff, which the Jack Johnson case is quite interesting in that it was one of the first sort of controversies the Bureau of Investigation to be FBI got involved in.
All right.
So you had the Bureau in 1933, you had a bunch of different agencies. So to think about it, the FBI is a combination of a bunch of these older different agencies and basically adopted the largely segmented bureaus of prohibition. There's a bunch of different agencies that now come all under the umbrella of the FBI. So there was the FBI really came to big standing when this guy, J. Edgar Hoover, who did 48 years with either the Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Investigation, and the FBI. So this is the guy who's the dam's named after, and also the guy who, was one of the biggest, adversaries of guys like Martin Luther King. Yeah.
Yeah. So J. Edgar Hoover, he served as director for 48 years until 1972. I'm of the belief that if you're at the top of any organization for 50 years, you're probably a real dickhead. You probably have done a lot of fucked up stuff. Like who lasts that long ruling anything for 50 years? You have to always have like a head on your swivel. You have to know who your threats are, who your enemies are, not just the ones that you're supposed to be investigating, but also the ones from within that simply want your job. And so we could maybe get to this a little bit later, but he collected files on everybody. I'm talking presidents, I'm talking civil rights leaders, any prominent person in the United States. J. Edgar Hoover had a file where he would try to collect as much blackmail on you as possible that he could use to compromise you in the event that you ever did anything that would threaten him remotely. But yeah, so he served there for a very, very long time. And so Billy, what did he do when he got into power? What was the FBI involved with? What were his first major tasks?
Mm-hmm. So some of the big names that the FBI took out early on, much of it was related to prohibition type crime. They got John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, Kate Ma Barker, Alvin Creepy Karpus, and George Machine Gun Kelly. Some of these names that are outlaws you sort of hear of but don't really know, much of their legacy. The FBI put a lot of them away. They were big investigators into racketeering. Even one of their earliest racketeering case was something called the Oregon land fraud scandal. So basically, you had people giving out land. They needed a investigative bureau to take down politicians who were basically granting nepotism and giving their friends basically a ton of land that wasn't in their jurisdiction and not using the proper avenues for these people to actually apply to get this land. Other activities of the early decades was focused on the actual control of the Ku Klux Klan in the Southeast United States. They were working on the Viola Luso lynching case, who actually was murdered by an FBI agent, if I'm correct. They went after Nazis who were proliferating the U.S. during World War II, skeptical of communists, and they also were in charge of the list of Japanese nationals as well as Italian and German Americans who they thought were working for the Axis during the war, which in turn they put into internment camps in the Southwest. So the FBI was in charge of FDR's internment camp program because they had the list of all the Japanese individuals, which were the majority of those interned, as well as a couple German Americans and Italian Americans who were thought to be working for the Axis.
Yeah, anytime you're compiling a list of a certain ethnicity, you're fucking up. Just know that you're in the process of doing something really fucked up. So you should stop.
Yeah, and they were big list people. They had a list of sexual deviants in Washington. They had a list of possible enemy nationals, a list of, the list of maybe mafia related people.
List keeping back then must have been a real problem. That must have been really, you had to be organized as fuck. Say something nice about the FBI. They were very good at paperwork because in the days before computers, keeping a list, a centralized list, and then distributing that list to everybody else and keeping them up to date, that was a big pain in the ass for sure.
Also, they had a list of Mexican neo-revolutionaries under the leadership of General Enrique Estrada in the mid-1920s who they thought were trying to cause a rebellion to succeed that part of California back to Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with St. Patrick's Regiment that fought with the Mexican army in the Spanish-American War.
Right.
Gotcha. Billy taught me that fun fact on the way to California when we helped this young gentleman get his car out of the snow. And he was a red-haired young man that spoke Spanish, and he had freckles. And Billy was like, he's definitely an ancestor of the St. Patrick Regiment from the Spanish-American War. And I was like, Billy is insane, which I stand by that statement, but he's also probably not 100% incorrect that there's a possibility.
It's just, look at Canelo.
Yeah, that was basically your entire thesis behind it. Is like, he looks just like Canelo.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments so far with what we've learned about the FBI?
I know you briefly mentioned their involvements with MLK. Are you going to go into details of that, or?
Yeah, if anyone else wants to take the reins on that, but
I would love to. Well, I think that's the biggest misconception on, especially when you talk about politics and right-wing politics today, is like everybody loves MLK. He's like a beloved figure. He has the most famous quote of all time, right? But nobody realizes how much he was hated while he was alive. People hated him. There was polls done on him and how much he was an unfavorable character. He was definitely an advocate for social democracy. He was an advocate for worker unions. He was constantly calling out white supremacy and its effect on American society. And so he was not favored amongst especially the populist right, especially in America, and even a lot within our own community. He wasn't highly favored because a lot of people said he was too radical. Other people said he wasn't radical enough, especially in the like of the ilks of Malcolm X, those kind of figures. Didn't think he was doing enough, or they didn't like his approach. So when you talk about the FBI's doings, they were absolutely insane. They wiretapped his phone. They had lists of civil rights leaders that they did this to. They sent him a suicide package and told him to kill himself. They literally told Dr. Martin Luther King to kill himself. They had a whole bunch of blackmail on him. Obviously, he was a very promiscuous man. So they tried to use that against him. They were constantly stalking, surveilling him. And the funnier part is I don't, not to my knowledge, and I could be incorrect, but to my knowledge, they have yet to see any kind of posthumous attempt at reconciliation from the FBI. Say our bad, or we fucked up, or we did this, we did wrong.
They tweet at him every year.
Yep. Good point. That's what I was about to say. They always tweet Happy MLK Day from the FBI.
Yeah. In which they get roasted every single fucking MLK Day, which is, it's kind of like an American Twitter tradition. Actually, should be a thing. The FBI getting roasted because it was just unbelievable how much and how bad it was. And it wasn't just MLK. It was the infiltration of the Black Panther Party. It was all like they try to put a wedge between Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. Literally was incremental in getting Fred Hampton killed, who died at the age of 21, who was a brilliant thought leader in the Black Panther Party, and literally got him murdered with the use of the Chicago Police Department.
So this all stemmed from the brain of J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover.
While he
thought that Black liberation was America's #1 terrorist problem and threat.
Yeah, he absolutely hated communism, hated it, and he thought that everything that was supported by people who happened to be on the American left was tantamount to communism. So the American left supported the Black liberation movement, civil rights movement. There was the counterculture movement in the 60s. He hated anything that they supported. So he would insert a lot of instigators. He would infiltrate these organizations and put them up to crimes that they otherwise would not have committed. Things that you hear about a lot nowadays. I'm sure that Big T can go off on that a little bit later. But this has been happening to everybody. This has been happening for decades and decades. And so, it's funny. I'm going back to what I said earlier, but it's funny that nobody is keeping that same energy, depending on who their target is. I think that we as a society need to keep that same energy for the FBI, no matter who is being targeted.
And I think that's the funny part is you'll find a lot of progressives did, right? And then when Trump was like, FBI bad, we were like, hell yeah, just keep going though. Like, continue this, because the corruption is riddled through all of our American institutions. That's literally what we're saying. And people don't want to take it a step further. Like, there's been, when we take it to for example, we take it to police departments, there's been study after study conducted that there's racial bias in policing, but you got to back the blue. There's been FBI agents that have infiltrated KKK group and say that when they go off, they go to police departments, they go join different authoritative American institutions. This is what we're saying, and we're agreeing with you, but they don't want to take it one step further for obvious reasons. But another group, to get back to the FBI, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say another group that he targeted back in the 50s with the sexual deviance thing that Billy was bringing up. That was homosexuals. So he had a hard on for homosexuals, and he was going to take him out. He wanted to purge all levels of government from anyone who was gay, and so he unilaterally came up with this branch of investigating anyone to put them on a sexual deviance list. And what that meant, by the way, if somebody says to you like unilaterally, I think that we should just look into all the sex stuff. They're probably guilty of some sex stuff themselves. So this was all from his brain. This was all his direction. And then later on, it came out that he had some interesting activities that he liked to get into behind closed doors himself. But he wanted to get rid of any homosexuals that were involved in any level of government. And I think that probably ties into him just hating anybody that supported any sort of progressive policies back then. So that his brain set the direction for the FBI for those 50 years. And I think naturally, you can probably say, like, if you're a gay person and you're in government back in the 50s, to say nothing of what society was like at the time and how it looked at you, but if you knew that what you were doing was going to be investigated by law enforcement, you were probably going to break some other laws in order to keep your personal life secret and your personal preference secret. And so he was able to use that power and that fear to get a lot of people arrested, a lot of people kicked out of government, essentially just for being homosexuals. And then the 50s and 60s rolled around, and he started a little thing called Cointelpro. I'm sure Billy
just about to hit up on that.
Billy, I'm sure, has some facts, and then Arian, I'd love to hear you speak on it.
I just wanted to comment back on their actions with the civil rights. They helped cover up the murder of Viola Luozo, who was killed by Gary Thomas Rowe, an FBI informant who at the time was also an active member of the Ku Klux Klan. He assisted in the murder of Viola Luozo and then helped orchestrate making it look like she was a drug addict, and basically having multiple sexual relations, try to paint her in an extremely bad public light, which at the time was, totally defamatory. And it was only discovered during the Freedom of Information Act that this was all orchestrated by Luozo's children, that all of this was basically a whole hoax and ruse, and that she was basically a white civil rights activist who came to places like Selma to help out and, help Dr. King in the cause of civil rights and everything. And she was basically murdered for doing that with FBI ties. So, there's tons and tons of these sorts of incidences that, are all subject to, now we know.
Okay. So Cointelpro, let's talk about it. Stands for Counterintelligence Program. They do a good job naming their operations.
Very good. Extremely strong name.
Sounds fire. Sounds fire.
Sounds like crypto.
Yeah.
Crypto's fire.
There should be a coin called Cointelpro. I think that's a good idea, Big T. Let's look into that.
I will not be purchasing that.
So yeah, Arian, you want to speak on Cointelpro?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just get some of the basics, man. It was founded specifically to target, infiltrate, sabotage many different groups in the 60s and 70s. So you're talking about Black Panthers, Black Freedom Movement. You're talking about feminist organizations, animal rights groups, American Native groups, Puerto Rican civil rights movements, anti-Vietnam groups. And what they did was, it's like they was a gang. This is why in a few podcasts ago, I was like, the American government operates much like a gang members do. They operate and they want to control resources and land. And they have little groups like the FBI and Cointelpro, exactly, to be specific, to try to carry out that objective. And so Cointelpro, like I said, targeted all these groups. They did everything from murder to sabotage. When you talk about like the Black Panther Party, and so when you talk about like the communist propaganda that is still permeating through our society, what the Black Panther Party, a lot of what they did in our inner city groups was they fed, up to 20,000 kids. They had a free breakfast program. They had clinical aid clinics for free to try to give people aid and testing for sickle cell anemia, stuff like that. They were very adamant about the Second Amendment, right? They were like, we should be able to carry guns. That scared the shit out of them. Matter of fact, there was the gun laws are so stringent in California, in part to the Black Panthers marching on the steps of Sacramento saying, we have the right to carry guns. And within a week or two, new gun legislation was passed. And so, like I said, Cointelpro did everything from monitoring, surveilling, infiltrating. They've murdered people. They've sabotaged. They've tortured people, all under the guise of that this is a direct threat to security for the United States, which was just a bold-faced lie. And what bothers me the most about this shit is like there hasn't been a lot of retroactive, like, yeah, we fucked that up in the FBI or the American government, and they continue. There is a lot of people that say they continue to do the same things today, and so that's just touching on the basics of it. I mean, the depth would just be going into details. Like all this information is readily available, right? So anybody who's like, oh, you bullshitting or you bringing race and yada yada, look it up. Just look up Cointelpro. A lot, even the shit that they have, right, is fucking horrible. But there's been files that have been lost, there've been files that have been damaged, burned, whatever the case may be, that we don't know the 100% the extent. And so when you talk to a lot of or read up a lot of these Black Freedom Movement leaders, they talk about it. They talk about how they would infiltrate rival. I think it was, I believe it's so. The guy that got the dime dropped on Fred Hampton, the FBI, I think, paid him like $200 or something like that. Like, shit is sick. And so when you look at the extent of what they did, it's just gross. It's disgusting. And this is why you'll see them getting roasted on social media every single day. Like, I would argue that the FBI has done more harm than good.
What's the upside to the FBI being on Twitter?
I don't know. I think it's just like any other American institution, man. They love promoting that shit. It's like the be all you can be commercials. Like, it's like the army. It's like the police. Like, they love, for some reason, they love stealing $20 worth of weed, putting it on social media, saying we got a bust, and they're getting their ass roasted. But I think any publicity is good publicity in their eyes. I think they understand marketing, and especially in the hyperbolic, very infused political society we have today. If you can get enough circulation on it, there will be enough people that would agree with it, that in turn markets for your organization.
How many followers do y'all think the FBI has on?
Probably not that many.
It's like 200,000.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say that one. I was gonna say 100.
I was gonna say 1.5 million.
167,000.
The highest guess is not even close. 3.4 million.
Whoa.
Who are these fucking dweebs?
Who is following?
FBI?
Like, these tweets, FBI's Boston's Joint Terrorism Task Force provided information to authorities in Sweden. Like, who 3.4 million followers for this shit. International partnerships help protect the U.S. Our scientists and weapons of mass destruction coordinators. Like,
is it like job listings? I could see that being useful.
Cyber crime.
They have more followers.
I don't want the FBI getting their employees from Twitter.com.
honestly, probably all of the engagement they get from the MLK tweets probably pays off.
I just clicked on people that I follow that follow the FBI. Y'all want to take a guess who follows them?
I just followed them for the record a second ago.
Jack Mac.
Billy, why did you just follow them?
I just followed a second ago.
It was Billy. I didn't know he just did it.
Okay.
I just did it a second ago when I pulled up the page.
And Riggs. So now we know you don't follow Riggs.
And Spider.
Spider follows the FBI. Probably just keep tabs on him.
No, Riggs was at the bottom. I do follow Riggs.
Maybe that's where Spider gets all of his Nets tweets about like who's not playing that night.
Now, do you know how he gets that?
Yeah, he's still on a list. Is it Nets or is it Knicks? I always forget.
Nets. No, he's the #1 Nets reporter in the country, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, everybody go follow at HQ Spider on Twitter, because he will give you all of your Nets news before it's news. Because he worked at Hofstra, right? And Fordham. Sorry, yeah, that's right. He's a Ram. He's in the Ramley. And when he was on like the sports journalist list there, and so they would send them all the news about the inactives and injury reports. And they just never took him off it. So he gets it even before Shams or Woj tweets it out. You can get that ahead of time from Spider.
Surprisingly, CIA has 3.3 million followers. Why is it less than the FBI?
I don't know. It's a good question.
There's so many people following these motherfuckers.
I was shocked.
More than like just U.S. military. Like, I looked up the Navy. The Navy doesn't have half as that much, or the Army. So it's not like just people who follow military organizations.
Do they do like promoted tweets or ads where they have to hashtag ad or hashtag partner?
Yeah, like the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy all have like 1.5, 1.7.
We're going to get back to more Billy facts about the FBI in a second. But before we do, we have a very special new sponsor. This is Concrete. Their patented creatine HCl is the favorite creatine of elite informed athletes. Not just myself, not just Billy Football. And Billy, by the way, when he saw that they were a new sponsor, absolutely flipped his lid. He's very pumped to have them because he loves their creatine. He took one look at it and he goes, oh, this is the good stuff. This is the stuff I want to be taking. It's HCl creatine. It's the #1 stimulant-free pre-workout supplement. Pairs perfectly with protein and stimulant workout supplements. It's the #1 bioavailable creatine with 70% greater plasma uptake than standard creatine. You may see creatine in stores. Usually it's creatine monohydrate. That's not what this is. This is creatine HCl. It's the good stuff. Microdosing creatine. That's what they're about. 1 small scoop per 100 pounds of body weight. You get all the strength and endurance benefits of creatine without the negative side effects. You don't get those water retention. You don't get bloat. You don't get cramp. You don't get diarrhea. This is good creatine. It's concrete. Patented creatine HCl is the only creatine that females should use because of no water retention or bloating. Check them out right now. Their creatine's different, and your brain uses about 20% of the creatine in your body just to think. So concrete patented creatine HCl fuels your body and it fuels your mind. So optimize your health and fitness, both body and mind. Build a better you with Concrete. And if you register now at con-crete, that's CRET.com/podcast, you can win a free membership to Planet Fitness for an entire year, plus $500 Walmart Visa gift card. That's con-cret.com/podcast to be one of multiple winners. And Concrete is now available online and in store at Walmart. Concrete is truly changing fitness and health.
The FBI has enough followers; they could be doing serious brand deals.
They could be, yeah.
Like, people should be reaching out to the FBI to be promoting shit.
Yeah. Are you having trouble getting a bad night's sleep because you're being investigated by us? Well, try Helix Sleep.
Yeah.
The best mattress for your money.
Space Force has
MeUndies, FBI, MeUndies.
You shit your pants seeing those lights in your rearview mirror. Our micromodal will spread that around for you.
There was also an investigation that was done called the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI in the early 70s. And they actually broke into an office in Medina, Pennsylvania. And they stole a bunch of classified documents and they sent them out to a bunch of newspapers. And then everybody was like, what? Holy shit, the FBI does this? So essentially until like the 1970s, if you thought about the FBI, you probably had a pretty good public impression about them because you didn't know any of the bad shit that they did. But then
depending on the demographic you had.
Depending on the demographic. But I think like overall, it was probably way more positive than it is now because none of their stuff had really been brought to light unless it affected a community that you were in or people that you had direct ties to. It was probably, yeah, there was probably some word of mouth, but that was like the first rock solid evidence that most of the country was ever exposed to.
Back then it was just like, oh, they take down mobsters, they killed John Dillinger, like they're actually getting criminals.
And well, I mean, you could make the argument that in the 1920s, prohibition was started by some pretty nefarious causes, and the bootleggers and racketeers, yeah, they were violent. They killed a bunch of people, and they made life very, very painful for a lot of their enemies. But they were breaking unjust laws, I would say.
So are you signing off on the Valentine's Day massacre?
No, I'm not signing off.
A day after its almost 100th anniversary?
I am not signing off on that, but I am saying that if you make something illegal, and you make it a target for law enforcement, then you're going to get some people who have probably naturally violent anti-societal inclinations that are going to be the ones who break those laws and take the most advantage of them. So by making it illegal, you actually introduce a lot of that violence.
No, I'm just busting balls. But the Whitey Bulger case is a good example of how even when dealing with racketeering, they took huge oversteps by basically letting Whitey Bulger, even though he was an FBI informant, totally just run his business and dominate, the Boston crime world.
Business is a kind word for what was happening.
Yeah.
So more about the Cointelpro. At one point in San Diego, there was a group called the Secret Army Organization, and that's a paramilitary right-wing organization that was in San Diego. And the FBI did a little handshake deal with them, and they kind of deputized them as being like an army, like their own branch of the military for the FBI.
From what I could pick up is the FBI had all the lists of the anti-war protesters, communists, quote unquote, civil rights leaders, and basically gave that list to this secret army that was just about, I think it was 30 guys with military training to just firebomb, burn down, and just do terrible things in Southwest California.
Yeah, the Cointel program it targeted everybody that was considered to be an enemy of J. Edgar Hoover, went after him, got a lot of people arrested, actually killed a lot of people back in the 60s especially. And then Billy, you want to pick up after Cointel? What happened in like the 70s, 80s, 90s? Anything you want to dive into there?
They were actually pretty hard on our guy Elvis. They saw Elvis as a threat to U.S. The U.S. interests. They thought that this was a very interesting one. You know, Elvis's gyration of the hips was thought to cause a moral panic of the time and cause the sexual drives of the American youth to be aroused. They found that all of they sent people to his shows to watch Elvis perform, and this is what they came up with. So
I can only imagine those guys in the audience with like a stopwatch timing his hip gyrations per minute and counting them up. It's funny how like that caused a moral panic, and now you've got like Kodak Black having sex with a woman at a hockey game in public. Maybe they were right. Who knows? One thing leads to another. So what did they do with Elvis? Did they try to infiltrate his people? Did they put anything out against him? Did they make him join the army?
There were talks of it, but like basically ensuring he didn't dodge the draft to almost get rid of him. But they were looking to all of Elvis's dealings, and basically Elvis was the target of a lot of blackmailing attempts, which was what they found out when looking into all of Elvis's dealings, because they were trying to frame him as they're trying to out him as a homosexual. Elvis, that was their sort of edge to think they could get rid of him, basically. But they found out that the king was actually being targeted by people who were trying to also frame him as a homosexual and extort him. So,
why did everybody want Elvis to be gay? Why was that like the big target?
Well, if the FBI could prove that, then they could sort of label him into that sexual deviance category and just get him canceled by those standards.
They keep sending him hotter and hotter dudes, and they're like, no, he didn't fuck this one either.
Basically,
we gotta amp it up a little bit.
I think Elvis was seeking treatment for pockmarks on his cheeks, and he was getting skin, basically plastic surgery of that day. I don't know what the exact procedure was. And this one guy kept propositioning him to try to get him on tape. And basically the FBI helped him out because they found that this guy was actively trying to get him. It was a weird story, but let me bring up the exact. Basically, they thought Elvis was doing some pretty wild stuff, and he was the victim of a couple extortion attempts. That's what they found in his file.
They also targeted the American Indian movement. Back at around that same time, culminated. Well, not necessarily culminated, but there was the case of Leonard Peltier, which probably deserves its own episode to dive into, about a guy that was very active on that had some run-ins with the FBI, and a lot of speculation that the things that he was accused of doing had FBI fingerprints all over him. But I don't think that we have enough time to dig entirely into that. But that was another group that they targeted. And again, this all came from one person's brain, and that was J. Edgar Hoover. And so Hoover, he got out of the FBI when 1972, I want to say. Let's see, somewhere around that time frame. And then it transitioned, and I think that the FBI lost some of that like original, I don't want to say charm because it's not charm, but it lost his insanity. And it switched more over into a typical law enforcement operation where it just started to overreach on a lot of stuff. Yeah, Billy?
Well, the Cold War was good for the FBI in that basically they stopped messing with the American people and started focusing on who were informants for the Russians and trying to figure out Cold War stuff. And, you know, that I think if you look at that period of the 80s during like the 1984 Summer Olympics, that they were pretty focused on the Cold War, and actually they may have been. I don't think they're exactly implicated in a lot of the crack epidemic Reagan era stuff. I think that was more the CIA, but I think the FBI sort of toned down its domestic dealings from my research.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of involved with some of the stuff going on with the Sandinistas and things in Central and South America in some of those revolutions. But I feel like that was mostly the CIA. The FBI, they had some agents that were, boots on the ground here in the United States, making sure that certain shipments got through, certain shipments did not get through, especially when it comes to like the war on drugs. But I feel like that's mostly the CIA's department was installing overseas governments that we wanted.
Also, a lot of the FBI also deals with a lot of crimes on a native reservation. So that's one of their huge jurisdictions is on native land. They actually do a lot of the policing in some regards. Instead of like a state police coming in, it's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And unfortunately, they don't do that good of a job at ensuring that a lot of crimes don't get overlooked. So, yeah, the FBI, I mean, honestly, doing all this research, like I like to think that such a large government agency does more good than bad, or maybe they just get highlighted more in bad. But, of all the things they're in charge of, it doesn't really look too good.
So fast forward to the 90s, one of my, I don't want to say favorite, but an interesting topic for me is the Olympic bombing in Atlanta, where they arrested Richard Jewell, who was the security guard there. And there's the movie that came out about Richard Jewell was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. The guy that plays him does an awesome job. I just always think that he's eventually going to be tapped to play Andy Reid when they make that movie one day. He would be awesome at it, and he seems like a cool guy. But it was a really sad thing that they did to Richard Jewell, who was the security guard, who all his life really just probably strived to be a member of the FBI. That was probably his goal, was to reach that level of law enforcement, but he was not that good at being a cop or being a security guard until that day. He was like one of these guys that is always, he's deputized himself. He's like a rent-a-cop that does think that he's actually a police officer. He found the bomb in Centennial Park, tried to get people evacuated, and then the FBI focused their investigation on him and thought that he was the one that planted it in order to discover it to look like a hero cop. Turns out he was completely innocent of it, and they fucked it up big time, essentially drove him and his family into poverty, and he ended up having a heart attack a few years later, brought on from the stress that was brought to him through this investigation. But if you look into what happened in Atlanta, Georgia that day, it's kind of remarkable that they fucked up that investigation as much as they did, because this guy really had no interest whatsoever in pulling off a stunt like this. There was nothing about his past that would have told you that he would have been involved in an actual bombing on his hometown. So look into that if you have a second. And then we can fast forward to 9/11 and those attacks and get more into the modern day, unless anybody has anything else from that time frame. All right, so let's do it. Billy, what do you know about the FBI and the 9/11 attacks?
Basically, after the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center, the FBI started to make these assertions that they were going to go after terrorism, not only at home, but abroad. They realized that a lot of the crimes and terrorism being committed were coming from outside the U.S. And this is when Congress starts to sort of letting the FBI let loose in foreign endeavors, where the CIA was mostly in charge. And a lot of this actually resulted in, there's a book about 9/11 that basically stated that the FBI and the CIA all had differing parts of information that they wouldn't share with each other. A lot of it was competitive because the FBI was sort of going to the international jurisdiction, and they almost didn't want to share a lot of the information they each had with each other, because both ones wanted to be, the ones to crack the case, a sort of stubbornness. And what ended up happening is you had important information in both these agencies that if they both knew about, they'd be able to connect the dots and maybe hopefully stop 9/11. But because You had two agencies with not much communication, with information that probably would have been able to solve the whole thing. It sort of caused what happened to happen.
Well,
that's one theory.
They overlooked a lot of stuff. There was the whole Arizona flight school thing where they got tips that people were training on piloting planes but not worrying about taking off, landing them, and they investigated those, and nothing ever came out of that. And then those guys would be the ones that would be part of the team of hijackers on 9/11.
Yeah.
Okay, so 9/11, right before 9/11, Robert Mueller was installed as head of the FBI, one of Big T's favorite guys, right?
Yeah.
Good chops, Big T. Here you go, baby. Your time to shine.
And so yeah, let's get into some of the more modern day stuff about the FBI. Big T, I'm gonna let you speak on this one.
On what?
Just your impression of the FBI. It sounds like a lot's changed over the last 5 years.
I don't have, I think you think I have that strong of an opinion. I really like the Hillary Clinton thing was a joke. This new round of shit where they're like the Russia thing, I think they just, I don't know. I think they act on bad information sometimes.
Why do you think the FBI would change from being, largely an organization that is focused on taking out left-wing threats to being one that's largely focused on taking out right-wing threats?
I think I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. I really don't.
I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think that in certain circumstances, the FBI, because they have such a broad mandate and they've got such incredible resources, that whatever direction they happen to get pointed in at any given time, they have a tendency to overstep their bounds by a long shot.
Right, that's what I was saying.
The thing with Comey is just such a schmuck. I think we can mostly agree on that. Like do you follow him on Twitter, on social media?
No, is he tweeting?
He's like the most basic person in the world. He'll take like pictures of his giant ass standing out in the middle of a field, looking out, and then caption it like, just thinking about staying in the moment for now, and how fake people really make me mad.
This guy has 1.5 million followers. Yeah, here's a picture of him. He's signing shit. It says signing book plates today for folks who attend my virtual events next month.
Yeah, like he's one of those guys that should never have become a celebrity.
You know what's so crazy? None of this, I just looked up the Mueller report because I forgot what exactly the findings were of it, and you can't find a straight fucking answer anywhere. It's it's almost designed that half the people can interpret it one way and half people can't. No one's actually willing to make a hard line assertion. I'm literally looking at it right now, on the Wikipedia, what did they find? And it's nothing is straightforward. Mueller wouldn't say there was no collusion, but he also said that there was. It's just, it's almost infuriating that no one has the backbone to take any sort of stand on it, be it negative or positive, in order to quell the sort of discourse that's just been toxic to this country for so many fucking years now.
My theory on the Mueller report, and I also think, Big T, you like this, if they had ever investigated all the stuff that the Clintons had been up to. I'm not saying the Clintons killed people because I think that's insane, but I think that they've done a lot of really bad things for this country. And I think that when a guy like Mueller or the apparatus like the FBI is investigating a president, especially like a sitting president, always in the back of their head, they're trying to, they feel like they have this mandate to make sure that there's peace everywhere, and that the status quo of our government doesn't get too upset. Things don't get, the apple cart doesn't get tipped over too hard all at once. And so when they find stuff that's likely true, but there's no direct smoking gun evidence of it, they're probably more willing to just be like, yeah, we found this, but we don't recommend any charges. Because imagine if they had found direct evidence, and if they had taken the evidence they do have and they had said, we're recommending prosecution for the sitting president right now, as well as his entire campaign, you'd probably end up with 40% of the country that would be enormously ticked off and thrown into turmoil, and probably a lot of elements of that would be willing to take up arms and start shooting. And so they probably had in the back of their mind, like, if unless we really have to, I don't think that we need to charge anybody with crime.
So do you think they actually found more than they would lead on then?
I'm 100% sure that every major campaign for president, probably in history, but let's just narrow it down to like the last 20 years, has 1,000,000% broken laws and fudged things.
Yeah,
and reached out to try to win at any cost. And knowing how Trump likes to win at everything that he does, I'm sure he took any sort of advantage that he could get, as a lot of other politicians have done. He probably did it a little bit more ham-fisted than most people would be, because that's his nature.
Now, what do you think of the, we'll call them reports that have come out recently about Hillary Clinton as it?
So I don't know what this report is. I can't. You're talking about the Dahmer thing?
Yeah.
I have no idea who the fuck Dahmer is. I just keep hearing people say, like, this guy who...
The serial killer?
No, it's a new report out there that's saying that, like, Hillary Clinton has a law firm, and an associate of one of the lawyers that worked at her law firm may have done something bad. So it's not even like a direct line.
Well, I thought it was that they were planting some sort of evidence.
Yeah, but it's just people saying... I've been trying to look up exactly what the hell is going on with this thing, and I can't figure out a single, like, direct arrow that they're pointing. It's like, I don't know. It's like Hillary's lawyer had a friend, and then that friend did something that could be implicated as having some sort of line on intelligence into the White House itself.
Do you think Trump reached out to someone in Russia and said, do something to make sure I win this election?
I don't know that, but I think that if somebody in Russia had been like, hey, Don Jr., I've got this stuff that I stole from Hillary Clinton that makes her look bad in some of her business deals. Do you want it, or should I go away? I'm sure that they would have said, yes, I would.
Yeah, I think that's different.
Right?
Do you agree? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, by the letter of the law, if you know that they're an agent of a foreign country.
Oh, I'm not saying that's by any means legal or like you should do it.
Right. I think that's probably more than likely that happened. But again, I'm also sure that it's happened to many other campaigns.
But like the opening
Although
line...
except that nerd Al Gore, when he got sent that videotape of Bush's prep for one of the debates that they had, somebody secretly recorded George Bush preparing for their presidential debate, sent it to the Gore campaign, and Al Gore was like, this goes against my moral standing as a representative of the United States government. And he called the FBI and he gave them the tape. Now, do you think that Trump would have done that?
I do not.
I think that's why he didn't win.
But the opening line of the Mueller report says the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. That to me does not.
That's proven though. That's you don't.
I do think there was 100% social media accounts produced in former Soviet Union countries as well as Russia that were pumping out different angles on things.
Like the fact that Russia did collude, it's not even controversial. Maybe amongst like real hard Trumpers, but like they absolutely colluded. It's just if Trump and campaign and co had anything to do with it.
I guess I disagree on the meaning of that word. Like, sweeping in systematic fashion to me indicates you had a direct impact on something. If you were creating Facebook accounts and people believe dumb shit that was on Facebook, like that's on the electorate.
Is your assertion then that social media has zero influence on our politics?
No. I'm saying that's an indictment on like the electorate, and if people believe dumb shit, like that's on them.
Sure, that's irrelevant, but the fact that it has influence is what's on the stand right now, not the fact that the influenced are inept.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess I just wouldn't. Yeah, sure. I don't think we really disagree. I just when I wouldn't consider that I mean, I guess I would. I don't know. When you say interfere and influence an election, that to me indicates something more direct than posting weird shit on Facebook.
It's not like, I want to just make it clear, it's not like they're generating account with 0 friends, like spamming the comments underneath a post. It's, the report came out recently. I thought I bookmarked it. I didn't. I believe it was 9 of the top 10 most liked Facebook pages, political Facebook pages. None of them were run by people in the United States. And these things are like, they're click farms in a sense, but they have such a large following. It's like that crack pipe story that went viral like 2 weeks ago that didn't even turn out to be true. Like it's influence in making it seem like news versus one person popping up on Twitter tweeting like MAGA with a hashtag. Like, it is truly, I get what you're saying. I don't respect these people's level of intelligence either, Big T, but there is something insidious about it that is more than just like, oh, we have a bunch of these accounts post. It's like, no, these things are massive organizations at this point that do have a ton of sway in just how people are very quick to believe the first thing they hear. There's not a lot of people who push back on that stuff.
I feel like
that's part of the equation.
That's
I
fair.
feel like there was so much disinformation everywhere. Like, remember we thought Trump was getting pissed on in Russia?
We didn't think that, actually.
I think a lot of people did think that. And were led to believe that.
No, there was a lot, but that's now it's
you're
like,
right,
okay,
you're right.
But it was there was all sorts of stuff.
But that's to Cody's point. And I think the broader point, well, that is the broader point. On top of that, we're not just indicting, right? I think if you look at it from this standpoint, Big T, it's like there was definitely an incentivized reason for a foreign government or foreign agency to try and influence our political system.
We do it all the time.
But it's a foreign government trying to, like, the implications of that are massive, right? And I think the fact that if we take, the partisan politics outside of it and you look at the objective facts about it, it happened, and it's going to continue to try to happen unless there's mitigated practices to try to stop it. It's going to continue to do that. I think another issue with it, which we're all on board with, right, is the algorithms that these major social media corporations are pushing. This is why I'm not an advocate for profit and only for profit motives. Is because if Instagram wants to do nothing but get paid and all they want to do is get money, well, then they're gonna put an algorithm that shows up in your feed that's more conducive to keeping you on the app and less likely to push information that is positive and give you a clean mental habit in order to clean your mental palate so that you can understand or try to discern true from not true. It happens with YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of these companies. This is their motto. This is what they do. And so what we're saying is, it definitely happened. Take the partisan shit. I don't give a fuck about Trump. I honestly couldn't care less. But the fact that there's a foreign government trying to infiltrate is scary as shit. The fact that these major corporations don't give a shit about what happens to their consumers and all they do is push consumption. Like this is the recipe for disaster. That's all. That's my whole point.
Yeah, a lot of companies are just centered on profit, and they don't care about the message that they're sending out. This segment's brought to you by Russia. And I would like to say that through all the reports that I've seen, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, has done a bad job representing his people, and everybody in Ukraine wants to be Russian right now. So let the people of Ukraine stand up and become Russian. Okay, back to you, Billy.
No, I mean, on that topic, there's disinformation right now. Like, on that topic. Like, I just saw an article.
Yeah, no, I literally just gave you some.
I know.
I think that was that I wasn't listening part, Billy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, I didn't really realize where he was going with that. Basically, I saw an article.
Smarter than Buzz Aldrin.
I never said I was fucking smarter than Buzz.
Call him a dumbass. He said he couldn't play in this era.
I did not say that. I said that it would be. I bet I bet like if I kidnapped one of you, I could make you think something else is. Never mind. That's out of the pocket.
Billy, I will do a Stanford prison experiment with you. I will let you kidnap me, and you can try to convince me that I'm on the moon.
I love that.
We're just going to take a lot of
some amount of compensation.
You're just shaking your bed.
That'll get sponsored.
No, I will
get that sold to somebody.
I will say that if the whole Russian collusion thing was masterminded by Vladimir Putin, and it's led through the last couple of years of chaos that we've had, and now to this day where Joe Biden is now our president. Who does anybody trust Joe Biden going head to head against Vladimir Putin in any sort of negotiation? If that is indeed what happened for him to gain influence and to try to restore Russia to being, as large in terms of land scale on the Western Front as it was in the pre-Cold War era, somebody deserves a massive promotion over there. Somebody I hope will have a statue built for them in Russia. For what a great job that they did.
I do want to ask a question about that in all seriousness. Maybe y'all have an answer that I don't have. I don't know. If the implication is Russia, and more specifically the Russian government, intentionally interfered to make sure that Donald Trump became president, right? Now that Trump's gone, not president anymore, so we have the full landscape of his presidency to look back on. What was their goal? What did they want to accomplish? Because it seems like to me that Russia was a lot more aggressive in a lot of things when Obama was president, and now they're certainly fucking around with some shit. And it didn't really I don't see what the goal was.
I think it was a couple things. One, we're the big dog. The United States is the big dog on the planet. And
if it was just to see if they could do it like that, that makes sense.
The one thing I did see was the pullback of the U.S. in the Middle East. Because remember, Alex Jones, the whole America First platform, I think Russia really wanted to take advantage of, especially in the Middle East. Because remember when Trump sent airstrikes into Syria and Alex Jones started going nuts about how they got to Trump. He's a globalist now. Like in Russia times, everyone turned on Trump in that brief second during his presidency when he decided to send airstrikes in Syria. That's where I think if Russia had interest, that specifically was where it was.
Well, I think that's part of it. The overall scope of America being isolationist is good for Russia because then they can do all their shit and not have to worry about us interfering with it. Specifically NATO, I think the way that Trump approached NATO was pretty much him saying like, hey, you guys need to pay me more because we're not providing you all this protection for free, pay your fair share. It weakened NATO, which is what he wanted. And the specific reason why he wanted to weaken NATO was so that so that Putin could do things like take over some of those former territories. Really what Russia wants to do, from what I've read, and I'm probably ignorant on this, but from what I've read, Russia wants that Western Front to be moved back closer to where it was in the World War II era. Because right now, Moscow is essentially on the border or close to it in Russia, and they have no protection on the west side. They've got all the land in the world on the east in Siberia, but they want to reclaim those countries. And there's some definitely strategic important places in Ukraine along the Black Sea for shipping and
water ports.
Yeah, ports, things like that. But they want to take those countries over. So to answer your question kind of a roundabout way, Big T, I think the two reasons why Putin would have wanted Trump over Hillary Clinton is that, number one, he knew that it would be a divisive presidency no matter what, and that people's faith in certain institutions in America would be weakened. You would form these different divides, which I think have been formed. And also that he could use Trump to weaken some of those states. I don't know how much involvement he had in specific foreign policy programs of the United States or anything, but I think that was probably his goal. And also now his dream scenario is kind of played out where now we swung the pendulum away from Trump and Democrats were like, we'll elect whoever as long as it's not Trump. and now it's Biden who probably would have been best fit for office, I don't know, like 15, 20 years ago, if ever. Although I would make the argument that he was never fit for office because he's done a lot of bad stuff that I disagree with. But I think that's kind of that in Putin's mind, this is all played out. If he did all this stuff, it's all played out almost perfectly for him.
Do you think Putin is very smart or very...
I think he's very intelligent. I think he's a very intelligent guy.
Okay.
I think he's a bad dude. Now that said, do I want to send an army over to the Ukraine? Is it the Ukraine or Ukraine? I keep screwing that up.
I think it's Ukraine. I don't know why everyone puts the in front of it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that all the time. I personally do not want to send an army over to confront Russia in Ukraine. Essentially,
like data.
Well, Ukraine doesn't even want Russia there.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. But it's like, do we have any moral high ground? Like Joe Biden authorized the invasion of Iraq halfway across the country when he was in the Senate. Do we have any moral high ground to tell other superpowers where you can and cannot send your army? I don't think we do.
Well, I mean, I've been reading up a lot about this. I majored in political economy, and just the geopolitical scenario there is that turns out Russia's been sending a ton of agents into you. So basically, Russia's run by a mafia state, an oligarchy. Ukraine is also run by a different, mafia state oligarchy. And basically, the mob in Ukraine doesn't want the Russian sort of influence in their area. So they're willing to, when there was sort of agents sent into a lot of Russian-based populations, ethnic Russians in Ukraine, their own mobsters who were ethnically Russian are like, get the fuck out of here. Like, we don't, want to be associated with you. And you see a lot of this propaganda. Like, I just sent you guys an article about Russia claiming there's mass civilian graves found in Donbass, which is basically saying the Ukrainian government is killing ethnic Russians in Ukraine. Ethnic Russians don't like the current Russian government in Ukraine. They don't like their influence. The majority of them see them as a lot of former nationals who celebrate being in a democracy, being out of the influence of, Russia. And basically a lot of both sides are sort of playing up. And even the Ukrainian people and government are saying, yo, America, Russia is not going that hard right now. Like, stop playing it up like, we might get invaded. And what today's Wednesday? There was a report saying that Russia was going to invade on Wednesday. So I don't think that has happened yet. Has Russia invaded Ukraine? I'm going to Google that right now because I could be wrong and there could be invasion happening right now.
I don't think they have.
No.
It's what, like 11 p.m. over there now?
Yeah, so the day is done. I don't think there's only an hour left for that sort of report to come true. There's a lot. Yeah,
there's still time on the clock, Bill. Don't count them out.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes only had 13 seconds.
But look, in Russia, the 5 p.m. rule is not cocktail hour. It's 5 a.m. So they've been drinking all day. So I think they're past the, invasion part of their drunkenness.
Yeah, they're passed out. They're all asleep now.
Yeah. But
do it tomorrow.
No,
Ukraine's not going anywhere.
We've been receiving misinformation of how big of a threat Russia is to invade Ukraine. Like, that is, I
don't think that it's that much misinformation because, and Putin loves doing this shit during the Olympics. That's his thing. There's something about the Olympics. Seeing that flame go up, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna get a little bit more land. Back in 2014 in Sochi, right? During the Olympics, that's when he invaded Crimea. And he took that and he was like, you're not going to do shit because everyone's watching figure skating.
Well, it's right after the Olympics.
I think it started during the Olympics. It was actually kind of a brilliant timing. This is why I think he's kind of a smart guy, even if he's a bad dude. He had some of the world's best athletes and most visible figures from their countries, as well as lots and lots of journalists from those countries that he kind of held hostage in Sochi because he was in the process of invading another country, essentially daring everybody that was inside his country at the time at the Olympics, being like, you won't say anything about it because I know you all want to get home. and he's doing it again. There's something about this time of year. He loves it. He sees those snowboarders going. He's like,
yeah, the Russian winter just gets to him.
He needs to be in the Olympics. Have you ever seen him play hockey? He's the greatest hockey player of all time. He scores 13 goals a game.
He is, yeah.
Also, remember, why the hell would we even think about deploying troops in Russia in winter? Like, didn't we just have this conversation?
We did, yeah.
Like, hey, like, oh, we're gonna send U.S. troops over to Ukraine. Like, whoa there, buddy. Like, didn't we literally, like, isn't this the one thing you're not supposed to do?
Yeah, and we have troops over there right now.
Currently,
I don't know if they're how off the record they are, but they're definitely troops that are training the Ukrainian army and some of the paramilitary groups in Ukraine on how to combat Russian advances. Because if Russia really wanted to, they could take Ukraine in probably a matter of weeks. They just bombed the shit out of them, and they'd have no problem doing that.
I mean, how they took Crimea. I mean,
you imagine the pay-per-view numbers for Putin versus Kim Jong-un in like a decathlon of 10 different sports? Like they actually had to play head to head, like no interference. Like they actually had like, I'm watching that over the Olympics every day.
No, but Putin wins so easily.
He's washing. He's washing
Kim Jong-un shot
maybe
an
the
18.
shot put. Maybe the shot put.
He shot an 18 playing golf.
Yeah. I got Un on the links. I got Un on the hardwood. He's dicing them up. Putin's got no lateral movement.
He's got some good tips from Rodman.
Spetsnaz.
Also, Putin's like 5'7".
Yeah, but
he makes himself bigger than he makes himself seem godly. He's Mr. Burns.
What's the most you'd pay to watch that?
Geez, probably a couple thousand.
I would rather watch Donald Trump Kim Jong-un sumo wrestling match. I think that would do numbies.
Putin also wins the equestrian events, shirtless, naturally.
Kim Jong has really good lower body strength. Have you seen him ride a horse before?
Charles Barkley out there.
He rides a horse like a man, like a real man.
Yeah, I'm not putting
flying.
My man's in college was 300 plus, and he's like, "Yo, I bet I can whoop anybody in swimming." It was like, "Get the fuck out of here, dog! You big as hell." My man's was a fish, dog, a blowfish, but he was still a fish, dog. And so I don't put nothing past any fat people in water because that motherfucker was moving, bro. I almost think buoyancy might have helped. Yeah.
Also, Putin's got access to better dope. I think the Russian doping system.
By the way, this is my take. This is my take on that figure skater, as well as that curler who got caught taking drugs too. What Russia does is, like, we all watched Icarus. In Icarus, the guy's like, yeah, we don't dope. We dope all the athletes except the figure skaters because no dope helps the figure skaters. They're definitely swapping piss of the figure skaters with athletes who are actually doping. And now it just popped that, like, they never thought they'd check the 15-year-old figure skater, but she got popped for some sort of medication that probably one of the other Russian athletes who they did some sort of switcheroo. I don't know. Like, and same with the curler. That's like, the curler wasn't juicing. It was probably one of their other samples that whoever was there switched something quickly when the Russians had to report their sample.
Why do we still let them be in the Olympics? Like, what? I feel like
I like it. I like them in the Olympics because they're going to do this every time.
They're on a 14-strike policy.
Well, it's just, I mean, the thing is, if we don't, it's kind of good to have, like a Washington Generals type thing. Like, we need an adversary in the Olympics because no one would watch. Honestly, I think NBC is implicated.
Buddy, nobody watches anyway. Don't worry about it.
No one watches. If there's no basketball, no track and field, people are not watching the Olympics.
Hockey.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck about
without
hockey.
NHL players, you couldn't pay me to watch
Billy and I are watching the women's hockey.
At 11 o'clock tonight?
At 11 o'clock tonight. I've been betting on that.
I do have US plus a half, so I might tune in for the first period.
And Billy and I coached some of the women on the team.
Yeah.
In the Pink Whitney Cup.
I mean, we didn't coach them. We were puppet coaches. They did more than, any of us could ever suggest.
We coached them, Billy. We absolutely coached them.
We were cheerleaders.
Yeah, who on the team right now are disciples of ours? I know Amanda Kessel is.
Hillary Knight playing?
Rousseau, Diane.
Rousseau, yeah, Rousseau might be on that team.
Amanda Kessel.
Yeah. I think she's the captain.
Yes.
I like over 4.5 in that game as well.
Who they playing?
Canada.
Final
Yeah,
gold medal match.
Gold medal?
Yeah. Yeah, I got USA plus a half.
Plus 172 money line and over 4.5. You can even parlay those if you're feeling real crazy.
Let's go. So yeah, FBI. Anything else on the Federal Bureau of Investigation?
The only story I still find super interesting that the FBI, in more modern times, that they really fucked up, and maybe you can speak a little bit more on this, PFT. I think I've brought it up on here before. The DC snipers. They let them go longer because it was the one time racism worked in black people's favor. They set up these checkpoints all around the city, and were stopping every vehicle. And they were profiling, because in this country specifically, it's mostly white people who've been mass murderers and serial killers. So that's the cars they were truly checking top to bottom, ripping everything out. When the two guys who did it, both black men, drove up, they didn't search them as much as they normally would, and they just let them go.
Yeah.
And gave them a couple more days and a couple more killings to get off their chest before they finally, the murderers, fucked up and kind of led them on a trail to get them caught. So the FBI did eventually get them, but they could have got them sooner if they had just been their normal amount of racist.
That's true. It was John Muhammad's ex-wife, I think, that he had been stalking, that he had left some clues with her that she was like, yeah, this could be him that's doing that. And then that got back to the FBI, and then they searched his old properties that he was at, traced it back to him. But yeah, no, at the time in the DC area, so it was not just Washington, DC, it was also Maryland and most parts of Northern Virginia. And when I say Northern Virginia, I'm not just talking about Fairfax County or Arlington, which are right next to DC. It went all the way down almost, I think one of their shootings was almost in Richmond at the Ponderosa Steakhouse. But they had traffic stops set up everywhere. That was my senior year of high school. And I happened to be driving a white van at the time.
Oh, no.
And it was a white Chevy Astro. And it was reported in the news that it was a white van that they were looking for. So I got pulled over probably 6 or 7 times over the course of that investigation. And they would give my car a good look. My brother actually taped up, he came back from college one time and he taped up a sign in the window that just said, "It's not me." And then he turned the O and not into a crosshairs. I thought Perfect. That was, yeah, it was, I think, case closed. They saw him and they're like, oh, he's joking, but it can't be him. But that was a very, very scary time. And honestly, the way that they had chosen to do it was from a criminal aspect, like very hard to detect. So it was tough.
Yeah.
You had every cop and law enforcement agent in those 3 areas, plus you had the FBI working overtime trying to find out where this guy was, and they were just at a loss. They couldn't put it together because it
wasn't
was
it
just
not
such
even
an
a
unusual
van?
crime. It wasn't a van. It was a Chevy,
like a
Caprice.
Lincoln or something. Oh,
Chevy,
yeah.
Was there any connection between the victims, or was it completely random?
Completely, totally random, which is, again, why it was so difficult to figure out who it was. They started to do things like leave notes behind, messages for police officers, messages like things that you should include in your next press conference so that we know that you got this note. And that helped them put together a little bit of a profile about who it could be. But that really was ultimately inconsequential to how they caught them. But it was such a random crime spree that, as far as like the FBI botching that one goes, it was a very tough one for them to solve. But Coley's right that they were definitely thinking this is a white guy.
Right. Which is like the one time that's really ever backfired. And to give them the slightest break, because you're right, it was a hard case to crack. There was no question. It was also, I forgot the timing of it. It was a year after 9/11. So I'm sure the FBI was pretty busy with other shit. They didn't need this thrown into their kitchen as well.
Yeah, no, it's true. It was in the fall fall of 2002, and we couldn't have like recess out, not recess, I was in high school, but there was no like sports being played outside. Anyone that was in a classroom that faced the exterior of your school had to put up like construction paper over all the windows so they couldn't see inside. People were like running in and out of their buses. on the way to get out to leave school at the end of the day. People in parking lots everywhere. You couldn't go to a gas station without feeling freaked out. Everyone was looking over their shoulders. One of my friends, I might have told this story. I'm not sure if it was on this podcast or not, but we're driving around Northern Virginia, pulled into a gas station, and my buddy was filling up his car, and he took out one of those plastic gloves that they have by certain gas stations where you can like put a glove on if you don't want to get gasoline on your hand to like grip the pump and all that. And he just like blew it up with air absent-mindedly and then popped it. He wasn't thinking about anything. And then everybody in the entire gas station freaked out and like hit the deck. It was, that was a scary time. And I'm honestly shocked that there haven't been any copycats because of how like efficiently they were able to pull that off, where it shut down an entire district of the United States and brought everything to a standstill. Kind of a miracle that we haven't had anybody try to do that again.
In that same vein, I mean, we live in a surveillance state. The NSA has really gotten into a lot of our stuff, and the FBI, you know, is also in 2010. They uncovered various FBI task force, like really doing serious data surveillance. Like, you know, with the exception of the FBI saying that they missed out on the Stone Douglas High School shooting and other shootings that occurred, do you think that they've been instrumental in preventing a lot of those types of attacks happening in this new data surveillance environment we live in? And does that make it worth it? This is just a question I'm posing.
No, that's actually a great question, and I go back and forth with it because when you look at like Edward Snowden or somebody like that, and the whistleblower who, for those that don't know, the whistleblower who blew the cap on I think it was the NSA and the CIA who was surveilling us and tapping our stuff unbeknownst to us until it was like a big data breach. And so they did lose that. I think that they lost that lawsuit against Apple, though, didn't they? Because there was like a shooter or something like that, and they were saying, Apple, can you help us get into the phone to like, you know, uncover more information and evidence? And Apple said no, which I thought was a valiant stance for them to take. But honestly, I'm on the fence about that, man, because like I said, everything up to this point, the NFL, yeah, them too, the FBI, CIA, they've done time after time again. They have done shown that they will use information to infiltrate and bully and murder and fuck with their citizens. So I don't entirely trust their motives in this sense, but there is something to be said about you know, a Minority Report type feel where it's like they have information that could possibly stop people being killed. It's tough to trust their motives, but at the end of the day, I don't think I trust them enough to say yeah.
Yep. I think there've probably been a couple cases where they've been able to do stuff. And by the way, if you think that everything got shut down after Snowden, they're still doing the same thing. Probably even bigger.
No question.
They probably like rebuilt it from scratch using new code. And they're like, yeah, okay, we ended that program.
Last thing on the FBI, have you ever just taken a casual look at the FBI's top 10, just like randomly? It's a cast of characters.
Ooh, let's see who's on the top 10.
There's this guy, Eugene. His name is Eugene. You got to see this guy.
Wait, I'm looking at these guys. Okay, Eugene Palmer. Oh. Who are the rest of these guys?
Let's take a look.
They captured number 10. I feel like they got to get him off the AP poll here and slide someone else into that spot.
This dude low-key looks Amish, this Eugene guy.
Yeah, let's see, Eugene Palmer.
Yeah, he has like the cheeks.
Oh, he's from New York?
What's up?
You know him? He's known to be interested in auto racing and is a car enthusiast. He's an experienced hunter and outdoorsman. He's wanted for allegedly shooting and killing his daughter-in-law.
Not bad.
Oh my God, this was in Rockland County?
That's all he did?
That's 5 minutes from my house.
Really?
Yeah. This guy's definitely living in the woods and no one can fucking find him.
This guy looks like a cartoon.
That gets you on the top 10?
I think it's because he's probably still missing and he's considered armed and dangerous.
Yeah. This guy. Yeah.
He was old 10 years ago. How like
Is he still alive? He would be like, he'd be like 83 right now.
This dude is
something else. This is the worst website I've ever seen.
Yeah, this looks
terrible
like
website.
It was made in 2001.
He was, I mean, this guy was born in 1939.
Yeah.
This can't be, if this is, no disrespect to the deceased, of course. If he's one of the top 10, I'd say we're living in pretty safe times.
All right, so guess what the number one person, without looking. It's a man by the name of Jose Rodolfo Villarreal Hernandez. Number one, what do you think he's wanted for?
I think this is totally stereotypical, but I'm going to guess it's some sort of cartel-related, gang-related mass killing.
So he's wanted for allegedly directing individuals to track and murder a man in South Lake, Texas. So it's a murder for hire thing, not even a murder thing that he's wanted for. Now, when it says like directing individuals, it sounds like he's probably involved in something deeper than just like this one particular crime, especially if he's number one on the FBI list. But yeah, it's a murder for hire guy. That's number one.
It also says on here that he's known as El Gato. Does Big Cat have something to do with that?
El Gato. Kind of looks like Big Cat a little bit.
$1 million reward. Let's find him.
Okay, let's see what this guy's up to. Yeah, this is a bad website.
Yeah, Alexis Flores.
Wait, Jason, who's this Jason Derek Brown guy?
I was just looking at him.
Remember him.
Jason Derek Brown speaks fluent French and has a master's degree in international business. He's an avid golfer, snowboarder, skier, and dirt biker. He likes to be the center of attention.
What an incredible bio on the top 10.
This sounds like a dating profile.
That's Chef Donnie?
He's wanted for murder and armed robbery in Phoenix, Arizona. You guys could have caught him.
Dude, this is the guy. This is the type of guy. I'm looking at him. He was a Mormon. He's a trained bank robber. He robs armored cars. This is the type of guy that gets away with it. He's definitely like the French Alps right now.
Well, Teddy speaks fluent French.
One of his aliases is Hairline Johnson. Like, this guy is a product of Marty Mushisms.
Hairline Johnson.
Also, his occupation is a golf equipment importer. What does that even mean?
Dude, this guy 100%. This guy's he's gotten away with it.
Completed his mission, his Mormon mission near Paris, France. I'm not saying that Mormonism has anything to do with this, but
all of these people have only killed, like, I've clicked on 7 of the top 10. They've only, like, some of them have killed, I guess they've all killed at least one person, but none of them have killed more than one person. Like, I'm just shocked this is the top 10.
Yeah, how accurate is the top 10?
Let's go to CIA. I feel like CIA might have a better list.
Alexis Flores looks like a goat.
Now this guy right here, Rafael Caro Quintero, this guy has kidnapped and murdered a DEA agent in 1985.
That's a big one.
And he also, he's a leader of the Sinaloa cartel.
He's not even number one.
Yeah, that guy should be number one. He hasn't. He's also the leader of the Caro Quintero drug trafficking organization, named after him.
Whoa,
that guy should be number one.
What a flex!
All of these people though have been missing since like the early 2000s. Is that how you get on the top 10? Is that you've just been missing for so long?
Yeah, I think the longer you're on it, the higher you go.
Do you think they have like a group chat?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I actually remember.
They know each other.
This Patel guy who killed his wife.
I remember this one.
Yeah, I remember that guy. I think it's because they got away.
Yeah, I think so too. If you're on the lam, if you're a fugitive, you skyrocket up.
There's only nine people have got away. Everyone else is caught. That's the part I'm struggling to believe.
Well, this is just the top 10. There's a whole list.
I'd like to see the outside of the top 10.
I bet they're crazier.
It's like the BCS in charge of these rankings. Like, I don't understand
who's on the bubble.
Okay, so wait, there's a whole
you know what they should do? Brackets instead. That's how you get people in America to pay attention to this shit. Is just put it in bracket form, and I'll instant click it. So yeah, maybe there's like an NIT.
Yeah.
Check out this. Okay, now they sort them. Oh Jesus, there's 355 people. What categories do we want to look at? Capital violence.
Cyber's most wanted. Look at that guy.
Also, like, how many people are looking at this website actually? How many people are Googling FBI
bounty
top 10
hunters?
most
I
wanted?
guarantee there's like independent investigators who in their free time try to crack this.
Like, do you think Dog is on the case on any of these?
Wait, I want to see this
Dog's
guy.
on the case of all of them.
Really?
Right. Like, I mean, there used to be a dedicated television program to America's Most Wanted, and I don't. Is that where they lost their way?
I mean, maybe these are all from the early 2000s. When did that stop?
Robert William Fisher. This guy definitely is in Mexico right now.
Violent crimes, murders. Yeah.
Call me crazy. I don't think we should want our most wanted knowing they're the most wanted.
Ooh.
That's like.
Don't give them the credit they want.
I want to lull them into a false sense of security. Wait till they fuck up, and then we'll snatch them.
Yeah,
Who's the
top 10 least wanted? Like, we've given up on these.
Well, remember these used to be guys like Whitey Bulger. There was that the terrorist who was on there.
Bin Laden.
I think it was Bin Laden, like number one for a long time.
Yeah.
Like I think
we made a pretty big deal of it. It was a whole thing.
Well, I know. I
didn't like Tiger in the 2000s. That guy.
I don't know if they actually had Bin Laden on the list, and then there was the other ISIS guy who was on there for a while who also got shot.
Why isn't Coney on this list?
Al-Baghdadi.
What?
Yeah, Al-Baghdadi.
Yeah, we killed his ass.
BRB.
See you later, bitch.
The people on the violent crimes.
Al-Baghdadi, not Billy, because Billy left when I said that.
Yeah, I thought you were talking to Will as well.
No. Abu Bakr.
Billy's a big al-Baghdadi fan. He got triggered.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right. I think that's probably it for today on macrodosing. I almost called it nanodosing.
We got a great interview coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, we got a good interview. So let's get to this interview with former FBI agent and also a guy that is producing and starring in a show on Discovery Plus that Arian's going to watch. Ben Hansen. Before we get to Ben Hansen, I want to talk to you about our good friends over at Manscaped. Manscaped is the #1 male grooming company in the world, and you can get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code DOSE at manscaped.com. Today, I'm excited to announce Manscaped launched their Ultra Premium Collection. Clap it up, everyone. Clap it up for Manscaped. Ultra Premium Collection. Believe it or not, it's for your not-so-private parts. I'm talking about a leveled-up hygiene routine with your favorite manly scent. It's an all-in-one skin and hair care kit for the everyday man and covers you from head to toe. Literally. It's trusted below the waist. Now trust them with the rest. We all know how essential that Lawnmower 4.0 is for that precise trim below the waist. Their advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts to your most delicate areas. Arian will tell you all about it. He uses the Lawnmower. He loves it. You can use it in the shower. But now you can enhance your perfect grooming routine with their Ultra Premium Collection. The package includes Manscaped Premium Deodorant. No, not for your balls, for your stinky armpits. The deodorant dries clear, it's aluminum-free, and it smells like their signature scent. They also have hydrating body spray. If you have tattoos or issues with dry skin, the spray-on lotion is designed to keep your skin feeling moisturized, smooth, and smelling fresh. They have body wash to lather you up with their infused aloe vera and sea salt shower gel. 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. It cleans your scalp with an easy one step. Plus, a free gift, a 3-pack set of lip balm that's made with ingredients such as vitamin E, peppermint, and eucalyptus oil to keep those chappers feeling moist. That's 4 products and a gift inside their Ultra Premium Collection. It's a score. All the products are cruelty-free, paraben-free, vegan-friendly, and dye-free. The best ingredients with zero compromise. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DOSE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping, promo code DOSE at manscaped.com. The power of attraction is now in a bottle, thanks to Manscaped. Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest. It is Ben Hansen. Ben Hansen, you can see him on Discovery Plus, Shock Doc Specials, Alien Abduction, Betty and Barney Hill, and Alien Abduction, Travis Walton. I think, is it fair to say that you're an expert in UFOs? Are you a UFOologist?
Yeah, I would say ufologist. I kind of don't like the word expert because how can you really be an expert in something that, is so unknown at this point?
That's a good point.
So I'd say I've spent enough time to get college credit for it over the years. That makes me an expert.
You get a bachelor's degree in ufology.
He should. I mean, there should be, colleges that do that, honestly, because it's seriously, it's a study of American history, goes back at least, to the 30s and 40s. And there's so much to know, unlike a lot of the other paranormal subjects.
So let's get started there, because I think we can say that UFOs are real, because unidentified flying objects, by their very name, have existed. We have seen objects in the sky that we don't know what they are, that we've investigated into. But the bigger question is, like, have they been piloted or controlled by people not of this planet? So right off the bat, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe people are still, debating this term, UFO, and they don't exist. Or like, you're right. The term implies it's unidentified, and the government has confirmed that they have plenty of cases they can't solve, right? So who's flying them? A lot of people have had experiences where, they've come face to face, they say, even brought aboard, communicated with these extraterrestrials. I personally have not, although I've had experiences of seeing craft that I think you'd be really difficult to convince me that we're just military. So I think that's where the government is with all this. They're like, look, we have no evidence it's our adversaries. We have no evidence that it's a black project we're unaware of. So that leaves what they call the other option, the alternative option. Right? It belongs to somebody else. And that's kind of where we're headed right now. I just think they're not willing to come right out and say it.
So amongst the people that you've spoken with that have seen or been abducted or come face to face with whether they're humanoids or whatever the case may be, is the description generally pretty similar of what these beings look like, or does it vary wildly? Like some people say it's little green men. Other people say it's like human form except taller.
Yes and no. So you have a wide variety of descriptions, but those descriptions seem to be similar, almost like you could categorize them, right? So the typical, what we call alien gray, we first started really hearing descriptions of that at about the 60s. You have the Betty Barney Hill case. And they describe things that then came out with Whitley Strieber's book, Communion, and that, cover of the book has this, almond-shaped kind of larger head with the black eyes. And so once that's in pop culture, I'm sure some people have been influenced by that and had, wild dreams and stuff. But other people, consistently repeat that this is typical of grays. You have people talking about reptilians, which like what you remember the movie Signs, that was like a reptilian looking creature, or Arcturians and Palladians, which are more like human, or the tall whites. And so I try not to go too far into specifying exactly, we know there's this many species or not. I really don't know, but it is interesting that people are having the same patterns.
I saw Billy's ears perk up when you said reptilians. He's a big fan of all things reptile. Billy, I know you got a question for him about that.
No, well, actually, my question is, with these recent reports by the Navy, by the military, is there any possibility from your research, because this is what I like to think to sleep well at night, that these unidentified objects that are encountering, Air Force pilots, reported by commercial pilots, I like to think that they may be U.S. technology that just is being tested out on, how pilots react to it, that might be, used in nuclear defense. And hopefully they're just these legitimate, flying objects that are out of the capabilities that normal people and normal military personnel know, and maybe being used, like, hypothetically, if there is a nuclear weapon fired at the U.S., because of their advanced technology, who knows where they got it? It might just be like a very advanced nuclear defense system, and just something that can outmaneuver any missile, any plane that we know in the modern conscious of being real.
Well, and some of that might be, you might be right. There were sightings of like the stealth bomber and fighter jets that people thought, well, this is completely, out of this world. And then one of them crashed, and it kind of leaked, this is our new tech. But I agree with you. Some of it could be. The difficulty with explaining all of them that way is that it's not just a new propulsion system. Some of this stuff, it's not because it's silent. It's not because it doesn't make a wake. It's we're using whole new physics that is thousands of light years ahead. Light years, I don't know, but you're talking about stuff that can go from the air and go into the water and not make any disturbance in the water and transition, or that can jump, you know, kind of almost like, for lack of a better term, like a portal. But I've seen this disappear one way and then appear a mile away, you know, and just hop around. The Navy videos themselves track these things on radar jumping about 60 miles in less than a second.
Wow.
So if that's our technology, wow. I mean, I want that stuff. we totally dominate the world, you know, for the next several hundred years. But then you couple in with that people who've alleged these abductions and actually interacted with beings on these craft that appear, some of them like human and some not at all.
Yeah, I feel like,
you know, and so yeah,
if that technology existed, I'm pretty sure that some billionaire would have gotten their hands on it, and we'd be able to fly from New York to Los Angeles in 15 seconds. I wouldn't be stuck in a plane for 7 hours like a schmuck. So you were talking about the abductions, and it's part of the series that's on Discovery Plus, right?
Yeah. So they typically will air this on Discovery Plus, a streaming app, and then several months or sometimes like a year later, it goes on the Travel Channel on linear broadcast. So the people who don't have the app can still watch it. It's just that the streaming gets it first, and the 18th, which is Friday, I believe, is when both of these docs will start streaming, and it was a whole lot of fun to make.
Okay, so let's talk about the case of Betty and Barney Hill, because that one seems pretty interesting to me. You've done a lot of research on it. You've spoken with a lot of parties involved. Give us a little bit of background as to what happened to Betty Hill.
So it was in September, and this couple decided to take a trip up to Canada. Barney, African-American, works for the post office. Betty, white suburban New Hampshire woman who is a social worker. And they are heavily involved in the civil rights movement at the time, which is important. They weren't the type of couple they were in the news for being in the civil rights movement. They didn't attract anything that would distract from that message, right? So you wouldn't want to come out and claim that you're by aliens. It doesn't really help when you're already in the public. Mm-hmm. And so they take this trip. They're on their way home. They just crossed over the border, and they're on their way home, trying to get back to New Hampshire, and they witness a light. And light they thought at first was, satellites were brand new at the time, thought it was a satellite or something. Gets brighter and brighter. They're pretty much the only car on the highway up there in the White Mountains. And they get really curious about it because it seems pacing the car. So at one point they pull over, and Barney takes out some binoculars to look at this thing. He's able to cross the street and see the highway where this thing hundreds of yards from them, and sees occupant looking out the window at him. And they're like, doing something with buttons like the control panel, and he's freaking out. He freaks out, jumps back in the car, and they hear a series of beeps. Okay, I don't know what that's about. And all of a sudden, they hear beeping again, but they're 30 miles roughly away from where they thought they were. And they got home several hours later, and, it was really bothersome to them. So the rest of the story is how they get connected with someone who takes them into regression hypnosis, and they have very similar experiences on board a ship and being examined. And some of it's really horrifying, and some of it is they've come to terms with it. But the thing that's I think important about the evidencing of the case is that we do have some physical supporting evidence of Betty's dress that she kept for all these years, and we did some testing on the dress and things that she alleged happened, and you have their stories and polygraphs and things that they'd taken, and so this is the first time anyone had really come forward with a story that was like mass media about abduction, and so it's an iconic case that was absolutely just awesome to do, and I think the documentary will surprise a lot of people.
All right, I saw the look on Arian's face while you were explaining that. I think Arian, are you gonna call cap, Arian? Are we capping?
Look, man, I don't. I never knock anybody's experience. That's maybe what they experience, but it sounds like a lot of cap, man.
Well, I will say the main the contra story to this, and the skeptics, what they say, and they have a valid reason to ask this, is how much of that could have been a surreal dream, perhaps. That maybe Betty was dreaming and that Barney was picking up on her talking in her sleep or talking about her dream, and then he had a dream. But as you watch the documentary, I think you'll see that, first of all, skeptics they got to basically call this couple liars, which they're so totally credible in the community, have nothing to gain from this with their experience of what they saw of the craft being awake, right? What happens in the regression hypnosis, the accuracy of that hypnosis is not 100%, like truth. The fact that they remembered the same details without having they recalled, so I think as you see it progress, at least leave you wondering, like, wow, what really happened here?
Yeah. So what is regression hypnosis? Because that's when I heard you mention that, I was like, wait a second. So they're retroactively remembering things after the fact when somebody else was doing something to their state of consciousness.
Yeah. So it's a tool. We use it in law enforcement still. It's like, suppose you witness a crime. Well, it doesn't necessarily make you remember things that weren't there before. Your brain it's like a computer with a body camera, recording 24/7. If you consciously saw or paid attention to any detail anytime in your life, it's there stored in your brain. The problem is, like, we have to be in a certain state to access those files. So hypnosis can help you get to a state that activates the part of your brain that's sort of like a filter and allows you to more clearly see and remember details.
So,
and yeah, that's how it was pulled out.
All right, so I've learned how to play craps probably 5 times in my life. Each time I've been intoxicated, I'll put it that way. And I've had a great time while I play it, but I don't know how to play craps. I have to be retaught every single time. Are you saying that, like, somewhere in my brain, like, if you put me in an FBI field office with some experts, they could actually extract those memories from my brain and teach me how, like, I would remember how?
Probably could. If you've ever been to like a hypnotist show, what's really awesome is that people can sing songs that, like, I don't know the lyrics to some songs, like maybe a couple, like all the way through, but you could tell somebody, sing me Staying Alive. And this person, hasn't memorized a song like this, and all of a sudden they, perfect recollection of the whole song, and so it's really amazing to see how it can work like that, or to play craps and like you could, like, totally be a pro at it.
I would love to get that extracted from my brain. Pulley, you got any questions?
Well, one, I think it would probably just be easier to teach you craps again. But two, like, I know there's been a lot of studies that have come out about people who can basically be convinced that they've had a memory that they actually didn't have at all, even if it's a small detail or an entire series of events that they could be convinced that they were a part of, and it would feel very real to them. What's the difference?
I seem to have lost you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You are frozen.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, you're back.
Did you hear anything I said? Or you want me to take it from the top?
You said it seems some people can be convinced, and that's where I lost you.
Well, yeah, there's been studies that have come out that people can be convinced of memories that they didn't actually have. They'll feel very real. They'll convince themselves that they were at a place and have seen things that they never actually experienced at all. I know a lot of people commit to crimes just because they've been convinced they committed them. So what's the difference between that and, was it regressive therapy? Is that what it was called?
Well, I mean, they did go there for therapy, yes, and you're right. We have to be careful because it takes a real professional not to lead people.
Right.
And, you know, I investigate a lot of child sex crimes. We didn't use hypnosis for this because it's not really admissible, you know, in that sense. It's a tool, though. It's a tool that can bring things out and help the investigator look at other stuff. So we really like it when we have that recollection, but then we also have physical evidence and the events surrounding it that support what they said.
Gotcha.
You know, so for example, I don't want to give everything away here, but Betty remembers having a needle inserted in the navel, a long needle, very painful, and she was told they were doing a pregnancy test of some sort. Okay, so she took that dress that she wore, put it in her closet, never touched it again. And I was able to go back where the dress is kept in New Hampshire University and use a black light, and I found stains on the inside of the dress in that location that we had tested, right? So when you put all these little pieces together, it seems to support what they were saying, you know, and they recollect. It's like science all the time. We're not looking for definitives. We're looking for probability percentages that something more likely happened than not. But you're absolutely right. People can have false memories. And I encounter people all the time that have a weird dream because they ate a burrito or something, you know, late at night. And they're like, I know I was taken. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, let's see what we're working with here. Is there anything else that would corroborate that you actually were taken? You know, so we did everything just because someone had a surreal dream.
Yeah, I was more.
Go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say I was more curious about the general tactic versus this specific case. Like this, has it been ruled out since it was New Hampshire and they were so prominent in civil rights that this was the Klan?
That was brought up. Yeah, that's actually one of the theories that someone was messing with them, trying to dissuade them from what they were doing in their work. First of all, it would be like a very complex hoax. How would they get something in the sky and then have this massive craft come down and actually pretty much land on the ground, like a, you know, kind of a ramp came down? Seems really unlikely. But you know, like I think when you get into the history of it, it does. It actually helped states because of that. Because I love reluctant witnesses, those who do not want to come forward and tell their story. And that was, the couple did tell a few people, they talked to their church group, but they did not want to come out and have this like worldwide attention to it.
So would it be possible that this could be some sort of MK Ultra type event where they may have been dosed with a hallucinogen and then that aided whoever was trying to sort of abduct them and mess with them and try to steer them away from what they were working on? Is there any sort of possibility in that realm?
I haven't heard that, you know, that lead, you know, followed very closely. I would think, you know, I don't know. I mean, depending on the hallucinogen, probably wouldn't be safe for them driving and them getting home as well. But, yeah, I mean, anything is possible to throw out there. The thing with these two documentaries, though, what you see is that they go into the theories that skeptics propose, and sometimes, like in the example of like Travis Walton, the skeptics, the debunkers, became so exaggerated in their claims that it's far more likely that aliens did come than the planet Jupiter was mistaken, you know, for like a 30-foot craft that's literally like 70 feet from you. Oh, that's the planet Jupiter. You know, and all you 7 are idiots for thinking, you know, that it's a UFO. So it's to that point. You have to weigh like what really is more likely.
So to kind of follow up on what Billy said there. Now you are a former FBI agent, right?
I am, yeah. I spent some time with them after working for the state doing child sex crime.
Gotcha.
Investigating.
So this is probably pretty. Yeah, good point. Good clarification. we will not pull that into a quote card and put that out on the internet for you. But to Billy's point, there was a lot of interference in the civil rights movement from the FBI back in the 1960s, and it would seem like it doesn't sound like it would be too far out of the realm of possibility that the FBI would look to discredit somebody that is heavily invested or a public figure in the civil rights voting platform back then. I feel like, not to put you on the spot and ask you what the FBI did, because obviously you were not part of the team back in the 1960s, but I feel like that's something that's worth following up on. Giving somebody some sort of temporary hallucinogen and then implanting those memories via, whether it's hypnosis or something else. It doesn't sound that far afield of what the FBI and the CIA were actually capable of doing back in the 1960s.
Well, I will admit there have been programs, there have been nefarious things from different agencies that have done stuff similar to that. I know that capabilities of what someone might be able to do, like when you actually get to work for the federal government, you're like, there's so much like red tape and so many people that would say things, and look at what happened with the CIA when they cracked down on them, and like, we're not going to be doing this, and this, and they turned over the rocks to look underneath to see what they had been doing. I personally think if it's something that was to that extent, those things probably would have come out by now. But again, we look at the complexity of something to pull that off. Now, if an agency happened to opportunistically hear about a couple who's claiming this stuff and they wanted to discredit, then they'd probably just sit back and say, well, we don't have to do anything. This is writing itself. Who's going to believe what they're doing now when they're coming out talking about an alien abduction? Mm-hmm. Right? So I think that's probably far more likely than getting involved in trying to help that, because also they didn't seek, nobody came to them and said, let me regress you. They sought out the help. So it was them going to a doctor because Barney was having physiological symptoms, severe pain, abdominal pain and problems and sickness, that was anxieties, nightmares. They were the ones who sought out help and that were referred by their physician to the psychiatrist.
So what got you interested in ufology? What got you going down this rabbit hole of saying, you know what, I'm going to investigate all these potential alien encounters?
Well, I would say that, like, I'd always been interested since I was a kid because of movies, maybe, like the fascination with it. But most people, can't put aside their day job. I still work in different things, but like, unless you're writing books or doing movies, like nobody gets paid to show up and investigate a UFO, and so I got really lucky with the Sci-Fi Channel to start creating a TV show, and I'm like, wow, okay, so now I can go out and actually make a living doing this and talking to people of these iconic cases, and so it allowed me more freedom to do that, which I feel really lucky to do.
Big T, you have any questions?
Yeah, so that was kind of what I wanted to, I was going to ask if this is something you'd always been into, or if working at the FBI maybe found something out that made you interested in doing that. But also, so I think this is complete bullshit. So I'd like to know what someone who thinks this is totally just abject nonsense, what the most compelling piece of evidence you've ever found is that you would say to someone like that.
Sure. And I don't mind that. I appreciate your honesty there.
No problem.
I would say when you have your own personal experience, if you have an open mind, not to just dismiss it. I've had very compelling sightings myself. And again, I didn't see the pilots. I don't know who was flying them. But to me, I did already have an open mind that this was going on, but it was like reaffirmation Now, if you want to go look at other people's cases, I think the Travis Walton case, and just really quickly, that summarizing, you had 7 logging crew members who were in Arizona in 1975. And when, luckily, they had other witnesses there. They all saw this thing come down. They all passed multiple polygraphs. And so you have to say, well, if you trust the polygraph at all, and it's not 100% accurate, but if you were to take mathematically the number of times that it was passed and how many people passed it, you have a 1 in millions or billions chance that they're lying about the critical questions. You know, did you see a UFO? Did your friend get struck by this light? And he was gone for 5 days, right? And so then we learn from what happened inside of the craft, you know, from Travis and what he recollects, which is really in about 2.5 hours. And so I think that's probably the best evidence as far as the abduction scenarios. But if you want evidence of craft that defying our physics, just look at what the government's releasing every single week. The stuff that's coming out is building a case that, like, is not ours. You know,
Ben, we also have a coworker who was at the Ariel school in the Zimbabwe UFO incident.
Oh, wow.
Witnessed. Yeah, so we, you know, some of us have been in close contact with someone who's actually seen these encounters. So there's more believers in the room than you think. But on the off the topic of UFOs, looking into your background, you're extremely accomplished. And, you know, just reading your biography, sea airplane pilot, amateur radio operator, licensed falconer, which I'd like to touch on in a second, certified scuba diver, hang glider, EMT, search and rescue dog handler, and Eagle Scout. Licensed falconer. Now,
what do you have for lunch, Billy?
What?
Keep going.
I've been fascinated in falconry for a long time. And this is the first time I've probably ever had a conversation with a licensed falconer. Just want to know, like, what's your experience? What type of falcons you use? What exactly?
So it depends on the state that you're in, but there's a federal license you need to get, and then each state has a state license. And so what you do is you go find there's clubs around. You go find someone who will become you're an apprentice, and you find someone who's a master falconer. And you get a license, and you can go out and actually build a little trap and trap your first bird. And it's awesome. It's really geeky, okay? As I was a kid, like, I couldn't tell anyone I was doing. They're like, "What? You have a falcon?" And, you know, but it's cool to build the trap, put a little mouse in there, and then you find one of these birds flying around. You throw the trap outside your car door and drive away, and they come down and they get caught in the little nooses on the top of it.
Oh.
And you take the thing home. You all night with it. You feed it mice. You get used to you being the person who's providing the food, and then you start doing the training. You know,
so these are wild caught. So these falcons are wild caught. Huh.
You start with wild caught ones. If you get up to the next levels, you can actually get permits to go get eggs or buy them privately and raise them from babies. And but what's really cool is just be part of that whole nature experience. Like, you can take the bird out, and let's say you want a rabbit to eat. Throw the bird in the air, circles around, comes down, grabs a rabbit, and then you get to cook it up. You know, so it's just kind of a cool way to be part of nature and see how it works.
I had no idea that's how you have to trap your first falcon. Like, that's every person's entrance into falconry. I didn't know it involved a car. Like, you throw the cage out of the car and then you drive away.
And then you got your binoculars and you're watching as the bird comes down on it, and when it gets its feet, the talon's caught in the noose, and you're like, okay, I got a bird. The strangest thing is I took my sister with me, the first one I caught, and this is literally what you do. Pantyhose are a great way to put the bird in the thing because it keeps them calm. So when you get the bird, you stuff it in some pantyhose and take it home.
What level of falconry do you have to be to get those tiny hoods that you put on their heads?
Oh, right away. You start with your first bird. You got to make them. You make the hood yourself. You make the Jessies, which are the ankle braces, and the leather straps. It's a king sport, right? And it's like the kings used to do this, and the art of making your perch and all that stuff is like if you go to a Renaissance You might see some of these people there because they're like, I don't LARP, I don't do any of that. But it's kind of cool to be part of something that's, you know, thousands of years old.
And how long does it take for the bird to trust you as you're feeding it?
And how nerve-wracking is that first night?
I was up pretty late, and the bird wants to go to sleep. And it's like this, and you keep the bird awake because it fears you, and it's got to learn to trust you. So you can have a bird well on its way in training within a couple of weeks to fly to you. And then, you know, in the next coming months, that's when you go outside and you're able to let it go and it'll still come back.
Don't you ever feel like a little bit guilty? Like, does this bird's family miss it?
It has free food. It knows it's always going to get fed. And so the food's pretty easy for it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Other question. So have you ever done any falconry in the Middle East? I know in Mongolia on the steppes, they actually use eagles to hunt wolves. And if you
I never heard that with wolves, but no, I'd never been to the Middle East to do the falconry, but you know, that'd be kind of cool to get rid of some of these coyotes here in California. Just throw it up in your yard and like go get one, you know?
Yeah. So back to UFOs real quick. We can circle back to falconry if Billy has any follow-up questions. But are the Men in Black real?
If you're talking about, you know, the Will Smith movie and stuff, not like that, no. But there is a basis of fact that started at least as far back as the 40s, where we do know, and it's verified, military members sometimes not announcing themselves, but different agencies who they work for, typically would show up in black suits and threaten people. This was a time when they thought the panic of stories getting out would cause everyone to freak out. And so I think it was more to protect, not even necessarily all the time the secrets of what they saw, but to dissuade people so there wasn't panic. But they would threaten. In the Roswell incident, child, I think 5 or 6 years old, that she'd be taken to the desert, separated from her family and killed. And so it is a thing. I don't think that there's really probably an agency around more that goes around and does that, but your stories.
That sounds like a yes, honestly. Like the way you just described it. That's that. Yeah, they don't have the little stick that they flash in your face and make you forget how to play craps that you learned the night before. But it does sound like everything else is like, yes, there are Men in Black.
Yeah, and when you talk about...
I would say, I don't know if there's one agency. I mean, people want to say, you know, there's got to be one agency. I don't know that that's the case. I think every agency has covert operating teams, you know, that go and do things without having to announce who they are. Definitely.
When you talk about like the fear, even dating all the way back then, and then I hear you talk about every week they're releasing new information about sightings, is there a possibility that they're releasing that and then you see videos out of extremely intricate and advanced aircrafts coming out of China? Could there be like fear propaganda working together in those two pieces of information?
You know, that's one of the theories, is that we need to assess the agendas of the government agencies, because if they did have knowledge of this and were able to use it, you know, to make people comply with certain things, or fake, let's say, an alien landing, if we had that technology to fake it, you know, and to put people into fear, it's a legit theory that needs exploring. But I think if you're following what they're releasing right now, Russia's doing it too. Russia is opening their files and saying, you remember when you thought this was us in the 60s? We were baffled. It wasn't us. We thought it was you. You know, and so I think there's more transparency there.
Yeah, I've noticed that in the United States, a lot of these sightings have come from places that are nearby, either army bases or places that have conducted nuclear tests. And I was curious, on a worldwide level, does that also hold true in, you know, the former USSR, in other countries, you know, North Korea, other countries that have established atomic weapons? Has that been something that you've seen worldwide?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it in European theaters. We saw it, you know, the Foo Fighters, they were called in World War II. We saw it in Vietnam. We saw it in Iraq. The Iranian military has stories of sightings around their facilities as well. And it continues, shutting down nukes. We're not able to launch them. It's really concerning. And I think that's why it is a national security problem, is because regardless of who they are, they're flying, at their own will, and we're not able to do anything with it. So, hey guys, I've got to run. We're actually filming here in my office today. So I got to bug out here in just a second, but.
Gotcha. All right, well, we'll let you head out. That was Ben Hansen. Ben, thank you for joining us. You can watch the Shock Doc specials, Alien Abduction, Betty and Barney Hill, and Alien Abduction, Travis Walton, on the Discovery Plus streaming service, and then on the Travel Channel afterwards. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been fun.
All right, take care, man.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye. Bill, you'll have to ask. Ben Hansen was brought to you by Dat Chat. We love Dat Chat. We have a page up on Dat Chat right now. We're going to start getting back involved in that again. They're back as a sponsor. We actually have used it in the past. The board that we have set up there is awesome. We get good feedback from you guys. We interact with you guys. We post on there. You can see stuff behind the show. Dat Chat is an awesome new social networking and messaging app that a bunch of us are using. It gives you the ultimate level of privacy. Now you can message and share with people you know the way that you normally do. You send private pictures. Dat Chat is great because there's no screenshotting allowed. You sent a bunch of drunk texts that you regret. You can self-destruct all of them, pretend like it never even happened. You want to talk about something private with your girlfriends or guy friends, bachelorette or bachelor party plans, there's no screenshot. So download the app now. Make sure to join our show. Talk about all the things macrodosing related. Join the macrodosing page over at Dat Chat. Download Dat Chat for iPhone and Android in the app stores right now, or you can go to datchat.com/barstool to get more info. Download Dat Chat today. Falconry questions to somebody else.
I have so many more questions. You know that he's a self-defense. Why weren't we getting into? He's the head of PrepperCon, the largest disaster preparedness survival consumer expo in the country.
Oh shit! I wish I had known that, because I need to ask him about where the fuck my doomsday bucket is.
Exactly.
A lot of competition in that market too. That's a real.
It really is.
That to be number one in that's a real
instructor.
We'll have to get him back on the show to talk about prepping.
Yeah.
That's actually an entire episode right there.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think he has to film today. I'm not calling our pal a liar here, but I think we were hot on the case or something, and he had to split.
Yeah,
the Falconers.
Yeah, I think maybe like when you start to be like, yeah, I was in the FBI, and now I'm working to prove that this mysterious occurrence that happened to civil rights workers that were working on voting registration was actually aliens. That set up a couple red flags for me right off the bat.
Big time.
And also, I know that Big T wanted to ask about what happened to the Hillary Clinton server.
I did not want to. I did have some questions about what the craziest thing the Clintons asked him to do was, but you're not going to get a real answer on that anyway. So.
We should just get various former FBI, CIA agents on here and just pepper them. Someone's going to break.
Yeah, let's get Peanut Tillman on the show.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie, bro. When y'all told me we had an ex-FBI agent, I thought it was like a real one. I'm not saying it wasn't real. I'm just saying when I hopped on, we talk about UFOs and shit. All the research I did was not for that shit. I fucked up. I dropped the ball on that.
No, it's okay. No worries. It sounds like an interesting show. I mean, those two cases that he worked on are two of the most famous alleged abductions by aliens.
I just can't watch them shits no more, man, because I used to be hella into it, and then
except for this one, which you're gonna watch on Discovery Plus. Yeah, I agree.
But I guarantee, bro. You'll watch 12 episodes, and at the end, there's just no fucking real evidence. There's just nothing. There's never anything. It's just a whole bunch of cool graphics, or maybe not. Maybe bad graphics, bad.
I got the best
reenactments. The reenactments be trash. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just cynical.
Yeah, I know.
I thought a lot of it, it's very, how he talked about, the moon landing, how maybe Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin definitely think they went to the moon. In my head, I'm like, you could trick people, give them LSD, put them in random places and make them think they actually went to the moon or be abducted.
Hold on. Have you ever done LSD, Billy?
No.
I need you to stop talking with such authority on what LSD does to people. Then
I don't know, some hallucinogen. I mean, the MK Ultra stuff. I mean, whatever they're dosing people with.
It didn't work. That was the whole point of it.
But I think you could like trick people by giving them some sort of drugs.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility, but you really think that they didn't go? Where do you think that they went, Billy? So, do you think that they just took them up in an airplane and then just landed them somewhere else and turned off all the lights and they're like, "You're on the moon now"? To
Billy's credit, you could definitely give someone LSD. They could travel 30 miles and not know how they got there. That part's true. Yeah. You could look up, see a very bright Jupiter, and it could appear to be closer than it is. That's also true. I didn't hate your MK Ultra point, but when you're talking about like convincing, like your brain doesn't shut off. Also, like you can, like people are on LSD and live perfectly normal lives.
I have no idea, but has anyone ever been to an escape room?
Oh, I'm a nigga. That's all I do. Like all the time.
Like you, yeah. We should do an escape room.
Your brain is an escape room.
Bro.
I can't get out.
I do. I'm talking about. I know. No, I can't even. I think I've been to every one in Houston. Every single one. Like,
Aren't they freaking real? Like, imagine if you were in a little of a weird state, and some of the escape rooms are space themed. You could, like, with the addition of like 4D rides, trick someone into thinking they're in totally different places. Like if it's a UFO, like, operation room.
Arian, have you ever felt like you
lost me right there.
In a UFO when you're doing an escape room in downtown Houston?
No, they're pretty strict on the rules too. Like don't touch the walls, don't touch shit that doesn't move, you'll break it. Like it's not that hard. You're not gonna trick anybody.
Look at the story.
Move, if I'm trying to escape a room, I'm touching the fucking walls. I don't know
what I'm saying.
There was a Netflix documentary on a guy who convinced a girl he abducted that he was an alien. It's not the crazy. Let me look.
Time out. Are you trying to convince? Are you trying to convince us? I don't say convince. Are you trying to explain to us that you believe that it's possible that they can trick somebody into believing that they landed on the moon? Like scientists, like people who study this shit their whole lives.
We could convince people, not like smart people.
I think if you gave them enough like disorienting like drugs, it definitely. So there was this
disorienting drug. What kind? How does it matter? Like what kind of?
I don't know. I don't know the exact compounds, but.
Well, I'm not asking you to break down
the case of Jan. Yeah, you know the Abducted in Plain Sight documentary on Netflix. I think.
Yeah.
I don't, but I'm gonna watch it as soon as you watch Ready Player One.
So fucked up.
Yeah, this guy.
Oh wait, no, I did watch that actually.
Yeah, he convinces the girl that he's an alien, and like it's not that hard to gaslight someone into thinking that they're doing different things. Like, even though it's a child.
Was this girl a NASA scientist?
No, but I'm saying I'm talking like, for example, if you took two. Let's look at not to discredit them, but Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. Mm-hmm. Their background was in, they're Air Force pilots who progressed enough in operating technology in order to be thought to be capable enough to operate a craft to the moon. Their whole, they're not exactly.
Calm down.
Oh, this is gonna rock. This is gonna be awesome.
I'm not dumbing them down, but you could.
He was an aeronautical engineer. Like
yes.
Like you're exactly. You're highly discrediting what my guy did though. Like you feel me? Like
I'm just saying.
Here's the question.
They were pilots that kind of climbed the ranks in NASA.
My joystick. They played some Atari.
Some of us are being tricked as we speak, and they have no idea.
Are you really in the Grand Canyon right now, bro?
Billy, answer this question truthfully. Do you think you're smarter than Buzz Aldrin? Yes or no?
No.
I don't know that I believe you.
I don't think I'm smarter than Buzz Aldrin. I think he has way more, but the perception, like,
he's overrated. That's what you're saying.
No, remember everything.
Couldn't play in this era.
Cockpit. No, I'm not saying
Billy,
he was going against farmers.
Billy, listen.
Think about it.
Listen. We're not. You can't call You can't say somebody that say, though that sounds wild, closed-minded. You're trying to convince us that it's possible to trick mad NASA scientists, engineers, and it's not just them you got to trick. You got to trick an entire space station on the ground floor. You got to trick an entire globe, right? You got to. It's hundreds of thousands of people that are scientists. This is what you're trying to convince us, my G, and you're calling us close-minded. That's
the only specification I'm saying is if it was fake, that is how they'd have to trick Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. That's all I'm saying.
No. What I'm saying is they'd have to trick everybody at NASA. They'd have to trick the entirety of the Russian scientists because we were in a Cold War, right? Like they was double checking our work. They would have to convince the Chinese scientists. This would be a global fuck.
I'm just saying, if it's like one of those things like OJ, like if I had done it, if they did do it, that's what they would have.
So yeah, Arian brings up a good point, which is not only are you tricking thousands of people, you're tricking thousands of objectively the smartest people in the world, all at the same time.
I have full belief that the U.S. got the moon because I have belief in American exceptionalism.
I think it would probably be easier, Billy, if they wanted to fake it. It would probably be easier to just be like, "Hey, Buzz, Neil, here's $50 million each. We're gonna go out to Nevada and we're gonna put you on a sound stage and just shut the fuck up for the rest of your life about it." That would be easier to do than it would be to have to trick everybody into going to a place that they know that we can't get to. Also, what would be the point of the years and years of training that went into it, where they're doing these sophisticated rocket launches?
All part of the ruse, PFT.
Yep. Good
point. I'm just saying, I'm saying basically I'm entertaining the people who think it's fake and then being like, okay, if it's fake, this is what would have to happen. Those Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, I believe, are honest men. They don't fight people in the streets because they, think, and if they have $50 million of silence money, they're rolling with security all the time. That's my only point.
Okay.
Because I believe the U.S. definitely won the space race because, but I'm just entertaining it. I'm providing a possible scenario.
Okay. Thank you, Billy. That was Billy's Corner. That was Billy's What If Corner. I think that should be a recurring segment on the show, just like What If with Billy Football. I'm not saying it happened, but
I'm entertaining a hypothetical. And you guys are like,
what if OJ had AIDS?
Yeah,
I'm entertaining it too, but it makes no fucking sense, whatsoever. Right. I entertained it.
And also, when you're pushing back, that's no longer you entertaining it. That's you believing in it fully.
He's defending his thesis that he doesn't believe in it.
That's not hypothetical anymore.
Yeah. And you get a whole bunch of people in mind, you're so fucking close-minded, man. Like, nah, bro. Like, that don't make no fucking sense. And you even agree with it. I just don't go along with it. And now I'm the closed-minded one. What the fuck?
All right, so that wraps it up. And next week, the schedule is going to be a little bit different again. Thank you for bearing with us. There's been some traveling going on for various members of the show. I think the plan is to record next Wednesday again and then drop it whenever we're done.
That's also our first birthday.
And it's our first. Wow. We made it a year.
Yeah.
And this is episode 50.
Shit.
Holy shit is right. Wow. That's that's like 200 in podcast years.
I think Big T should smoke a joint in honor of our first birthday.
That's not.
It's legal recreationally here.
There's a lot of shit that's legal that I don't want to do.
Okay. One day. How many more subscribers do we have to get on YouTube to get Big T?
We have 16,000 right now.
All right, so subscribe on YouTube. We're actually putting these out really quick. Thank you guys for editing.
And the nanodosings are out on YouTube all the time now too.
Perfect. So subscribe there, and we will see you guys next week. Next Wednesday/Thursday is when the next one's going to come out, and then we'll get back on our usual schedule of Monday record, Tuesday release after that. Last couple weeks have been hectic due to travel. That's going to change. Get back to normal. We'll see you guys then. Love you guys.